Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lab Rats Entertainment Podcast. My name is Ezra, and I'm joined by Ahmad Sawyer and a new guest to the show, Matt. Thanks for coming on.
No, thanks for having me.
Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Matt. I'm from Illinois. I like movies, so I guess that's why I'm
Yeah,
here.
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woohoo!
I mean, that's good enough for us. So.
Sure.
Yes. And Matt is joining us. He's our fifth unique special guest.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah.
I'm doing the math in my head. Doing clown math. Taylor, Caleb, Anna, Lucas. Fifth. And I guess
Nice.
technically fourth because Caleb is full time now. But
Yeah.
Lucas, didn't you count him?
oh yeah, Lucas was on there too, so you're sixth.
Yeah.
I think.
Look at that.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, we're going to start the news. We do it a little differently now than it was before, which I think is good. So at the very top of the list, and I don't think you guys understand how excited I am about this, is the Sonic movie.
Oh, wait a second.
So
Okay, now
So have you...
I watched the trailer.
You've watched the... Have you watched the trailer,
Wait, is this a
Ahmad?
new trailer?
The new
that came
trailer.
Yeah,
out? What-
trailer 2 came out
I-
on Tuesday.
I have not seen this, thankfully. I mean,
Thankfully.
Oh my gosh.
is it better?
You're
than-
a monster.
Is it
Matt, have you seen it?
I have seen pictures of it on Twitter. I have not seen
Okay.
the actual trailer.
It is so much better.
Okay.
It is like they fixed the movie.
Okay. So
What?
fix the movie. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, so you mean they fixed how Sonic looks?
They fixed how Sonic looks, and the movie is going to be awesome now.
I mean, I wouldn't say they haven't
The
seen
trailer-
it yet. You haven't
the
seen it.
trailer-
I wouldn't say it's
No, the trailer is exactly how I viewed the first Detective Pikachu trailer.
okay.
Like, you know that first Detective.
Here's the difference.
Okay.
That's the new
Oh,
one.
okay.
That's the old one.
I could it's a little bit
Yeah.
that's not as haunting. But there's like I think that if it's you just mentioned Detective Pikachu, and I think that's a film that like I was like very skeptical about because I mean
Yeah.
but when I saw it it was fun. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It wasn't
Yeah.
as bad. I had
Yeah,
like,
I'm not looking for this movie to be Oscars. I'm looking for this movie to give me a good time and to not haunt my dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
and we've won.
right. I mean, also, I think last week we had a discussion about because this is Paramount Pictures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a discussion about Paramount Pictures' like place in the industry right now and how they're not coming out. They haven't been doing so good. They haven't come out with films that have really kind of ranked like on the box office charts and also like critically. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not going to be a movie that does. I mean, it might get some box office like revenue, but like
Yeah.
it's
Do
not gonna be-
gangbusters in Japan.
I mean, probably,
probably.
yeah, but like it's not going to get.
Actually, I don't think so. The creators of Sonic themselves have gone on record saying like, yeah, we think Sonic's a little bit more sensible to American audiences.
No, I just
than
thought because of
Japanese
Sega,
audiences.
because Sega probably marketed a lot.
Yeah.
But
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just think that with the big controversy of how bad he looks, I think that's going to actually get a lot of people to go in and actually see
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
That's like at least the response I've seen on Twitter, where everyone's just like, "Oh, like I'll actually go pay money now." Where like before, like Jesus Christ, that thing's
Right.
terrifying.
Right.
So,
I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's an interesting point because I feel like like I mean this like you would think that that's like a negative thing or it'll impact the
Yeah.
film negatively, but now it sparked curious like interest for
Yeah.
audiences. So I think that might be something that's beneficial for the film.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was.
It's like they planned it from the very start.
Yeah. I think the trailer was much better. I'm still I mean, Ezra, as you know, I'm
Yes.
not really a big Sonic fan. I have never really played any of the
Yeah.
games, but I will say that I think the design it looks a lot more akin to the actual
Like
Sonic
the
character.
Yeah.
Sonic design that you know and love is
and
looks a lot more like
right. And
what we
like
have
I think like at first I feel like at first they were trying to like take a realistic approach to the character, which
which
is
mistake.
absurd. Which is
Yeah.
absurd because like it's
I mean,
it's
it looks like they're still doing the whole transported into the real world
Yeah,
thing that
yeah,
like
yeah.
every. I
Right.
would have much rather seen a Sonic movie that takes place
Yeah.
in the Sonic world. Whatever
Yeah,
that means.
I would have.
But-
Yeah, I mean, I would have rathered the same thing. The other thing I was saying was like this movie. This movie basically just won me over with like three things. One, a good-looking Sonic. Two,
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey as Dr. Eggman is perfect casting. And three, they had some really slick-looking super speed shots in the trailer. And as somebody who still holds the stance that the only live action anything to get super speed right is the CW's Flash. I'm looking forward to the Sonic movie trying to usurp the throne of CW's Flash.
I do think he looks much better, the actual Sonic.
Yes.
However, personally, I feel like this movie, based on the way it looks, is a movie that would have come out like 15 years ago.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
actually.
like your
Interesting.
Speed Racer. I'm sorry.
okay, don't trash my Speed Racer.
Wait a
okay?
second. I'm not saying. I'm saying Speed Racer. I you know my thoughts.
I know.
I love Speed Racer, but like I mean like I like along those same kind of lines where it's just like I agree with that. I definitely see it.
looks kind of like a movie. It looks kind of like X-Men.
I mean,
It-
kind of,
like
sort
that-
of like how do we describe it? Like a Hop, which is another
Oh,
James
oh,
Anderson
yeah,
one,
that's
or
right,
like what's the other Brendan Fraser one about the animals?
Furry
Furry
Vengeance.
Vengeance.
Furry
Like,
Vengeance.
and like one of those
Okay.
like weird, quirky tones
Interesting,
that it
yeah.
looks low budget even though it's not,
I
kind of
agree.
thing.
Yeah,
like
that's yeah.
it looks like a movie that would have come out then.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know, like
I
especially
don't
as
know.
someone that like really likes Jim Carrey. As in the first trailer, I thought it came to like a screeching halt when he's like talking to the general guy. Like I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's like I'm not
That-
a little kid anymore, and I don't
Right.
find that funny. But like
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Like it just like it felt like the movie came to a stop to just be like, hey, look, Jim Carrey, funny
Right.
man, tell a
And
joke.
do I need to mention the Smurfs movies?
I mean that's a perfect example of what I'm
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about.
That is a good example.
So I mean,
The
I guess
other-
that's a good
Yeah.
point.
The other consideration too is that like take away the Sonic design in the first trailer. That trailer is not a good trailer.
No?
This trailer was actually like I felt like I was being sold a decent movie
Okay.
when I was watching it.
Yeah, they also
Um,
don't have Gangster's Paradise in a children's movie anymore,
Yeah.
which is really weird.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'll get off my soapbox about that. But yeah, I don't think anybody listening to this or right here, right now, understands just how excited I am that Sonic is unironically positive now.
We really did make Sonic great again.
Uh-huh.
Oh god.
Oh.
I didn't need you to say that, but okay.
I saw it on Twitter and I had to put it in the show.
The next thing on my list is Pokemon. So Tuesday was a weird morning for me because the Sonic movie was awesome and the Pokemon Reddit was on fire.
Per
Because
usual, some Reddit. There's always a Reddit on fire
Yes.
at some point.
but it was specifically weird for me because as a Sonic fan, dealing with the fact that Sonic is good and Pokemon is bad is a very strange feeling.
Oh,
Bizarro world.
Yes. Everything is not as it should be. But yeah, I mean, Pokemon has leaked before release. It came out today, and the new Pokemon Sword and Shield for those who don't know, and the code is spaghetti. I guess is the best way to put it.
Wait, what?
For example, this is just one example. When you in the overworld, when you climb a ladder, everything that's on the overworld that was moving freezes while you're still on the ladder.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's like PS2 days kind of weird, right? Like you accepted that while you were playing like Crash Team Racing on PS2. You don't accept that in 2019 on the Nintendo Switch.
Even on the Nintendo Switch hardware might as well basically be a PS2.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that.
It's
one.
a Wii U and it's a slightly upgraded PS2 in terms of like.
No, it's a slightly upgraded PS3. It's HD. PS2 couldn't run HD.
It is HD. You're right. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I love my Switch. It's great, but at the same time, like, the hardware, it chugs a bit.
That's true. I love the when they were porting The Witcher 3 to Switch, they were saying like somebody said like this is some dark magic. I don't know how
Putting
to do
The Witcher 3 on Switch is like putting Cyberpunk 2077 on a calculator. Like
Yeah.
it's that big of a difference.
Yeah.
Like it's
Man, that's crazy. But yeah, so it has released with some controversy, but reviews are good. So yeah, I have it. You can hear my thoughts later in the show.
which one are you playing first? Sword. Or
I'm
Shield?
playing Sword. Because it has a Pokemon I like over another Pokemon I like.
Why is Pokemon in 2019 still doing 2 games? Like I didn't understand.
Because it sells.
Oh, okay. Well,
Because
yeah.
like it's the business model is a smart one in that if we release 2,
people will buy both.
there is a chance that like half of the player base will buy both of them, and we make double the money for the same development cycle.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So in other gaming release news, Jedi Fallen Order came out this weekend.
I am hyped.
Yeah.
For this.
So
Did you
so
get it?
you're
I have not gotten it yet.
yeah.
I'm going to likely play it over Thanksgiving break and then
Okay.
play Death Stranding over winter break since Death Stranding is like 40 hours. I want to delay it a little bit.
Okay.
But from what I've heard so far in
It's
the
apparently
reviews,
good.
it's pretty positive. I've heard the narrative is really good. It's like a really, I mean, it's a typical Star Wars story. It's not the most original in terms of like good versus evil type thing, but it's still a good Star Wars story from what I've heard. There's some likable characters. I've heard the combat is very Dark Souls-esque. Like
Yeah.
not as difficult, but like other than the regular stormtroopers, any enemy you fight is like an actual challenge.
Which is interesting.
I think, I mean, of course, in typical Stormtrooper fashion, it's one-hit kills for Stormtroopers. Just reflect the bolt back and then they're done.
Yeah.
But I think it's the only real tech problems I've seen is that there was a significant frame rate slowdown when you're transitioning from like one location to the next. Like I saw this one shot of him like
Interesting.
the main Jedi Cal swinging from a rope and then landing on a platform to fight a Stormtrooper, and the frame rate just screeches to a halt right before he gets into this combat.
Interesting.
But I mean, during combat, everything there's no glitches, but it's that's the only thing I'd really seen. Other than that, the game looks to be great, and I'm just so glad we have a good single player Star Wars game again.
Yeah.
It's been
Yes.
way too long. The last time I can think of that was like Force Unleashed 2, and that was like 2010.
A Star Wars game that is not like shrouded in controversy.
Star Wars,
Nice.
anything that's not shrouded in controversy right now is good.
Yes.
I mean, The Mandalorian is getting pretty good reviews as well.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't even talk about that. That's probably something we should put
Yeah,
on too.
I mean Disney Plus is the next
Okay.
is the next
Yeah.
topic we're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, who all here has seen the first episode of Mandalorian?
I watched the first episode. Episode 2's out now. I haven't had a chance to watch it.
I haven't watched it.
I have not seen it because
Okay.
I'm going to this weekend probably, but like
Yeah.
there's a free trial I could probably take advantage
it's
of.
a-
it.
That's what I'm planning on doing.
But
too.
keep in
Yeah.
mind, it is week to week.
Yeah.
It's not dropping all at once.
Okay.
Okay.
And also, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty smart marketing move from Disney, I guess, because like when I get it, I'm probably just gonna keep it. It's $6.99. I mean, that's
Plus, they get a really good deal now too. For $13 a month, you get Hulu, Disney, and ESPN Plus.
Oh, wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
for
which
like
is all
$13
pretty
a
good.
month.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
it's the ad version of Hulu, but still you get
Yeah.
all
That's
three.
fine.
Yeah.
People have been dealing with the ad version of Hulu for
I
8
currently am
years.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's BS.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it alone, I mean, just getting
a lot
Hulu
of
and Disney
stuff.
together is already
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's just a lot of stuff.
Right,
that
I
you
mean,
get.
like it's insane. Like the $6.99 for like the vast amount of media you get, like
Sure.
for Disney.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
But they, despite some technical issues at launch, 10 million subscribers day
That's a
one,
lot.
which is
Wow.
which if you think about the effort that Disney put into this, they basically made some tech guys make them a streaming platform, and then uploaded a billion MP4s, and then they just like off the bat made $60 million. Like that's pretty good.
$69 million.
Yeah, something like that.
I think it's not. how do I describe it? I think Disney Plus, it's a good start, but there's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff that's just like they or features or content that's not there yet.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Because like I know
yeah.
I've heard like that. I mean, they're still pulling their stuff from like Netflix and other places,
Yeah.
but like it says that like when you go for instance to tap on like if you want to watch The Force Awakens or something, I don't know if that's on there yet, but like
Yeah.
it says like
It
coming
is.
soon to like
Yeah,
coming
the-
soon on like December 9th or like
the main ones I've seen, Thor Ragnarok and Last Jedi, are coming next month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
thing. I totally forgot that Disney like now owns all the superhero movies, so those are all
Yeah.
going to be pulled off
Pulled
Netflix
off. Yeah.
onto
Anything
yeah.
Fox?
There's a couple Fox movies on there. I don't know what the deal is for their Netflix licensing on everything.
Mhm.
I only know
Yeah.
that Last Jedi and Thor come next month.
Hmm.
Because they're still on Netflix.
Because they're still on Netflix. And then Black Panther, Ant-Man and the Wasp,
Was Infinity War?
Infinity War, and Solo are all coming in July
Okay.
due to their licensing. So
Interesting.
the only Star Wars movie that won't be on there before Rise of Skywalker is Solo, but that's not exactly a
Which
huge
is
deal.
which is fine
Yeah.
because that movie does not matter.
I did notice also a slight whatever.
Yeah.
On Disney Plus is I noticed on a lot of their older ones, so I specifically Dumbo, Peter Pan, and Fantasia, they put disclaimers
Yeah,
in the
that's
details
interesting.
about like outdated cultural
That's interesting.
depictions.
That's pretty
Which
good.
is kind of smart
Yeah.
if you think about
It's
it.
not as much as Warner Brothers did when they re-released all the old Tom and Jerry
Yeah.
cartoons,
Yeah.
but they did at least put something in there, even if it's only just
Right.
one sentence.
Right,
they still
right,
put
right.
something
It's
there.
it's kind of like I don't remember his name, but the guy who like sort of collected all of the old Disney animated shorts and put them on DVDs. He
Yeah.
talks about how like he'll talk about how these movies were made in a time where such and such was super acceptable
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so we shouldn't judge this based on our sensibilities. We should try to like they do that because it just like it's a smart thing to do just so that like audience members don't go into like a Mickey short and then he literally like puts on blackface
Yeah.
and
Or the
and
Donald
they,
Duck
like,
Nazi one.
yeah, and they just like didn't expect any of that to
Yeah.
happen
Yeah.
like that.
I think it is smart
It's
they did
smart.
that. I think the only one of the Disney stuff that they've actually edited out a sequence was there was one segment of Fantasia I know they cut out. I don't
Well, I
know.
also
which
know. I don't know
one.
if you guys just. Saw, I don't think "Song of the South" is going to be on.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not gonna
Also,
be.
I like how like they call out like the streaming services where it's just like, this is not available due to contractual obligations. Like I just it's pretty fun with like
That
this
is
like
funny.
Yeah, I think the only one I've seen there of coming soon that's a ways off is
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean 5.
Oh,
Says
God,
like
who cares?
July 2021. I was like, that's
Are-
a ways off.
Are the other Pirates movies
Yeah,
on there?
the first
Cool.
four are on there.
2021. Holy crap! Am I going to be alive by
I'm
then?
gonna be-
I can watch
I hope I am.
the other
Are
three.
you dying to see Pirates 5?
Hey, Pirates 5 is not that bad.
Yeah,
I need to. I
boy.
need to. I still need to see 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, 2 and 3
You
are
can
really
stop
good.
after 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3. I think I've already spoken my like piece with these. Like,
Yes.
but like I enjoy all of those movies, even though I do acknowledge that they increasingly get bad. So
Also, stay tuned for more Disney.
Disney at the end of the
Plus, towards the end.
So I'm gonna rapid fire the last couple.
Yeah.
wait a second. What is this?
I don't know if the scope of this necessarily means we can do a last couple because the last couple is the last like 30.
Here, let me rapid fire them. I wrote
I'm
it.
gonna rapid fire this. So Rare announced a new IP at Inside Xbox last night, which is
Yeah.
developers of Banjo-Kazooie, which is cool. Bunch of other stuff happened at Inside Xbox. Go read a gaming
Yeah.
news site for that.
The only one that was like big that happened there that was pretty cool was they announced that Halo Reach is coming to the Master
Oh,
Chief
yeah.
Collection
Yeah.
on December 3rd.
Yeah, and
And
Square
in 4K.
and
That's
Square
cool.
Enix is putting a bunch of stuff that like was previously only on PlayStation onto Xbox as well. There was an Invisible Man trailer. Haven't seen it.
I watched
it's
it.
so bad.
Yeah, it also shows the entire
Yeah,
movie
it
in the trailer.
does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
it studio?
Blumhouse, I think.
I think, and it's Universal as well.
Oh, is it?
I think it's
Oh,
part of
yeah.
the Dark Universe cinematic universe.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
It's part of the Dooku,
The
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 Dooku.
Dooku.
the Mummy verse.
Because aren't they trying to like? Well, they're trying to keep their. I don't know if not the rights, but like the older monster films that
Yeah.
they made produced. Is this part of it? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's also. I mean, it was relaunched with the Tom Cruise Mummy, and this is supposedly part of that.
I don't know. The trailer was fine until like the last like 40 seconds where it's like here's the rest of the movie and I'm
Yeah.
like okay that's dumb.
Yeah,
So
it looked more like I saw this tweet. And I was like, it looks more like a sequel to Hollow Man than it does the Invisible Man.
Hollow- Oh,
That's
I was thinking of for some reason the Jack Black movie. Never. I'm gonna. Look it up. I'm gonna look it up.
Goosebumps?
No. It's like Hollow. Oh, no, never mind. You guys continue.
On that
School
note.
of Rock.
School of Rock.
Capcom turned down a Mortal Kombat crossover in
Yeah,
their
that's kinda
ever-loving
interesting.
wisdom.
Street Fighter cross Mortal Kombat would have been pretty cool. But
Yeah.
Oh, shallow hell.
Was it
Shallow
a,
Hell. Okay.
was it Capcom turning down specifically a Street Fighter crossover?
It was Street Fighter
Okay.
and Mortal Kombat. I think it was. I can't remember
Which
the
would've been
exact
cool
reasoning.
anyways.
I think it was because of the Mortal Kombat being so violent. They didn't
Yeah.
want to associate Street Fighter with that.
Which is kind of weird if you think about it, because Street Fighter is like kind of edgy in its own different ways. So
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Carrie Fisher was going to be a Jedi in Episode 9,
Yeah, that would have been kind of cool to see.
but then she died.
Yeah.
Jesus.
No, that's basically
That's all we
how-
have.
and that's basically how it went.
Yeah, I mean, this is also coming from her brother, Todd Fisher, who has been saying a lot recently since she died about the Star Wars stuff that they were going to do. I don't know how accurate all of this is, because I don't know how involved in the creative process he was.
I think it would have been really interesting to see Carrie Fisher like be the is she supposed to be was she the person who was supposed to be like training?
From
She
what
was-
I heard,
she was going
gonna
to
end
be the last Jedi.
Oh, so she would be in place of Rey then,
or
sorry,
Luke.
Luke. Yeah.
Yeah.
From what I had heard, she was going to be the one who, after Luke, because Luke was still supposed to die in Last Jedi, but
Yeah.
she would have been the one.
Spoiler.
Everybody who wanted to see that
Yes.
movie has already seen it. But supposedly he was going to be the one who, after he dies, Leia would train Rey.
I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but from what I've heard, like before she died, they said that they filmed the majority of her scenes for the upcoming movie.
Yeah, I think that, and they also are repurposing footage or deleted scenes from Force Awakens to use in this as well.
Interesting.
So she's still going to be in this one. To what extent, we don't know. Because
Yeah.
in the trailer, they've only shown her in that one scene of Rey hugging her.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I hope it's a good send off for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
I wonder if she is like the last to go, because we've lost somebody, like one of the three from the original trilogy.
they'll
in
find a
each
way to
movie.
get Lando out of there. They'll find a way. Chewbacca, yeah.
Lando is now officially more of a main character in the original trilogy than Leo is. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm just saying, like, if Leia, they're gonna have to find a way of putting her in here because they don't have all the footage they want. So
Yeah.
I don't think they're actually gonna kill her off. I think it'll be a way of writing her out,
Interesting.
like, or say like, okay, Poe's the leader now, and just kind of have her phased out.
Interesting.
Because I don't think it'd be necessarily right for them to kill her off.
I think it'd be even more disrespectful to just be like, "Oh no, you're out of here." Just like that leaves a bad taste.
Yeah,
in my mouth.
I think
Yeah.
giving Princess Leia like a climactic death is maybe more honoring than
They should have had her when she gets blown out of the
Oh,
airlock
that
in
is
Last
so
Jedi.
stupid.
They should rather than Mary Poppinsing her way
Yeah.
back. They should have just when they have that shot of her like all like crystally in space. That should have been the last shot you see.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
when she should have gone because it was a really good scene. Narratively, it works well and makes Kylo fully go to the dark
Yeah.
side.
Mhm.
That should have been her final scene, but and put the
Well,
rest
isn't
in.
All right,
Kylo-
all right. I'm
Okay,
putting the
yeah.
kibosh on the Last Jedi talk. I'm gonna skip that one. James Dean CGI and actor reactions.
Chris
Uh,
Evans is not happy about
No,
Yeah,
lots
I'm
of
not
actors
happy
aren't
about this
happy.
Well,
Yeah,
because was
it's-
Chris Evans trying to play?
No, I just
No,
think he
no.
was like, yeah, I don't want to be reanimated for a movie that I may or
Yeah.
may not want to
Oh,
have
okay.
again.
Mhm.
Also, like, I was talking to you guys before this, but like, think about being a new actor
Yeah.
and having to
Uh-huh.
compete with dead actors.
Yeah.
Also, supposedly it gets more murky because this movie that they're air quotes resurrecting James Dean for is a Vietnam movie, so things get kind of tricky with that.
Dude, I James Dean is such a guy. He died unfortunately, but like I would have liked to see what he would have continued to do. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
such a good actor.
Which
He
one
was
did you
such
say you skipped?
Star Trek Away Mission.
Oh yeah, it's
It's a VR game.
it's not even a game. It's like an on-site thing. It's
Yeah.
like that Star Wars experience I talked about like a year ago.
Yeah. Star Wars film break after Episode 9.
Good.
Yeah, good for them. I think.
Get your crap together, Lucas.
Yeah, taking a break after making anything is a good idea.
Well, that doesn't mean they're going to stop making Star Wars stuff. I mean, they're Mandalorian, the Kenobi show,
Yeah.
Clone Wars, hopefully
Mhm.
more
Well, but
good
that's
video games.
that's kind of under that's kind of under
Well.
different leadership though.
Yeah.
The leadership right now needs to take a break and just take stock.
I mean,
Are they
Kathleen
bringing in
Kennedy.
Kevin Feige?
Yeah, for one movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which
They should just have Dave Filoni in charge.
hey
but,
Dad.
Just give it to Dave Filoni. I don't know why Dave Filoni's
Yeah.
not in charge. Give it him and Jon Favreau should be in charge.
They should. Joker is the most profitable comic book movie ever. That doesn't mean it made the most money.
It's the most profitable.
Yeah.
It made the most money for how production was, which if you watch the movie, no CGI, or
As far as
very,
Very
little
little,
CGI,
yeah.
if any. And, not that many actors. Joaquin Phoenix is probably the highest. I guess Joaquin Phoenix and Robert De Niro are the two highest.
I mean, they're
billed.
probably most of the reason why the budget is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deservingly so.
Yeah. I mean, they.
I think it looks.
I'm not surprised.
I think the only other second place is The Mask, like 1994's The Mask.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's like
Jim Carrey, dude.
that, and I know the 1990 Ninja Turtles movie is also in the running there at some point.
Neat.
Yeah.
Sony leadership changing.
But
So Shuhei Yoshida is going to hang out with the indie guys.
yeah.
Is the idea?
What is that? Indie, like the Sony Picture
Like-
Classics indie brand?
No, we're talking about PlayStation.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
sorry.
this is
I just-
PlayStation's. So Sean Layden left PlayStation,
And now Shuhei Yoshida's out.
and Shuhei Yoshida is just moving to a different branch, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
like
so.
he's-
Oh, I thought he
he's-
was
he's going to
starting his
hang
own
out
indie
with, like-
startup.
I think he's going to hang out with like the people in charge of like distributing indie games on the platform. I think that's what it was. I don't know.
Alright.
And then it's an American guy who's heading the worldwide studios now, right?
Probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is that going into PS5, there's going to be new people, which is kind of worrisome. That going into a new generation, all these successful people on PS4 are like, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
It's like, don't screw this up.
Yeah.
Please.
I need PS5 to be a good launch.
PlayStation has had only one bad generation, arguably. Because PS1 was a great generation, PS2 was amazing,
Yeah.
PS3 kind of faltered at the beginning, but
Yeah.
got really great, and PS4 has been great.
Yeah.
So, PS5, please do good.
Make it happen.
Please.
Yes. They just have to not screw up their marketing,
And the price.
which is very possible.
Can't be more than 400. If the price is more than 400, they're in trouble.
3 unannounced Star Wars series in development.
Supposedly. This is more Lucasfilm needing to get their crap together. But I think...
I'm not gonna let you talk about that anymore.
Yeah, it's not like every week I talk about that.
Yeah. Titans has been renewed for season 3.
Sounds good. Haven't watched it, but...
Yeah, haven't watched it.
Haven't watched
Probably never going to watch it because that first trailer left a bad taste in my mouth.
But, I mean, they're bringing in Batman, so that's kind of cool. Ian Glenn's playing him, I think. Jorah Mormont from Game of Thrones. Woo.
Marvel Studios Disney Plus distribution. I think
we
we
already
talked
talked
about that earlier.
Yeah.
Disney Plus had some technical problems day one.
Some server issues.
Yeah, but
But they seem
All
to be
right.
doing good now.
all right. I'm saying it at the top. This is the last time we're bringing this up on the Lab Rats Entertainment podcast, and that is, why are people still talking about Marvel versus Scorsese? And we all just like collectively lose our minds.
Honestly, I don't even, like... I don't care anymore. That's-
I don't care what Scorsese has to say. I don't care what the media has to say. I
or
don't
what
I really,
Kevin Feige has to say about it.
I think Kevin Feige is the only person I care about, and the rest of anybody who has to say anything, which is like people who haven't even been in Marvel movies are saying things about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody's opinion. Let them have their opinion, and let's be done with it.
I
Like,
stop reporting on it.
Yeah.
Stop asking questions about it too. I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other feelings?
I mean, I do. I just don't want to take too long, but I guess I'll just go ahead and do it anyway because
Do it.
I
Do
think I already kind of talked to you guys about this, but Scorsese and Coppola, right?
Yeah.
I'm not like I haven't looked up what Scorsese said, so I really can't directly quote what he said. But I think that it's interesting because, like the type of movies that Scorsese made and Coppola made are different from the type of movie like. For instance, if Steven Spielberg or George Lucas were to come out and say like criticize Marvel films, I would be more shocked because I mean the films that they've made are predominantly reach a broader demographic or audience. I mean blockbuster films
Yeah.
that they've created. That's what they're known for. Whereas Francis Ford Coppola and Scorsese, obviously, their movies are a little bit more specific. They don't appeal to a broader audience, and their earlier films, at least. For instance, I'm referring to films like Taxi Driver, films like Mean Streets, or even Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. Francis Ford Coppola, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, The Godfather did receive a significant amount of success and was fairly popular. But Apocalypse Now, I'm trying to think of his other films, but The Conversation wasn't really that popular.
Yeah. Also, Coppola kind of spawned a sort of dynasty of filmmakers in a way, and it's Sofia Coppola, right?
But
She's sort of one of
the
the
point
premier...
Technically, Nicolas Cage is a Coppola.
Really?
Yeah.
The point I'm
He
trying
just
to
changed
get,
his name to Cage because
Uh-huh.
he didn't want to be associated with Coppola.
Right. Well, the point I'm trying to get at is like they're different filmmakers because they weren't trying to appease the audience necessarily. Even though they took risks, tried different visual looks, visual styles, and told different stories. That were a little risky because you never know if they'll actually appeal to audiences or not. Which they ended up, obviously. They received the success for it, and it did appeal to people. But Steven Spielberg and George Lucas from the very beginning, releasing films like Jaws, Star Wars, immediately impacted the audience in very significant ways. So the fact that Scorsese and Coppola are kind of criticizing Marvel doesn't surprise me, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're right, because I think one of the bigger criticisms Scorsese says is there's a lack of emotional attachment or empathy, which is completely wrong, because when I sat down and watched Endgame, I couldn't help but acknowledge the significance and achievement that Marvel was able to achieve, because there were people by the end of the film who were crying because of Tony Stark's death. Spoilers, Tony Stark's death. But that's one example of Marvel achieving some kind of emotional having the audience be emotionally attached to this one character and achieving empathy.
Well, I think an even better example is Steve Rogers' storyline.
Right.
Everybody was his storyline is probably at the heart of the saga.
Right.
I would say
Exactly.
his and Tony's.
Right. To completely, so to discount the significance of Marvel films is kind of, in a way, at least from my perspective, is a little ignorant. But I should be aware that these are two filmmakers from a very different time period, and they grew up with different films. They acknowledge different films, so you should look at it from both perspectives. And
people also need to realize on the flip side that these are not the single greatest films ever made.
Right,
People saying oh, you don't like Marvel movies, you must just hate cinema.
Right.
It's no, people are
right, and I've always been I personally appreciate, I kind of talked to you about this before the podcast, but I appreciate blockbusters equally as much as I appreciate indie films, because it's all about where do I want my fix from. If I want to turn my mind off and go watch Godzilla, I'll do that and I'll have fun. But if I want to kind of receive or get any kind of more of this emotional kind of mature content, I'll go to some film that's coming out of independent cinema, and that'll resonate with me more, and consequently, there's gonna be more of this kind of connection. In that vein, I feel like I appreciate independent cinema more because it offers that for me. But I'm not trying to completely eschew.
There needs to be a place in the industry for both.
So,
I always find myself connecting with movies that meet somewhere in the middle of that.
Yeah.
The reason Nolan movies are often my favorite is that they're not being quote unquote indie and edgy about it, but they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to communicate an idea with you that's really interesting.
But
rather
also from
than,
a blockbuster standpoint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Inception is a blockbuster.
Look, Star Wars. Star Wars is it's on such a grand scale, but you also bring it down to this very human story. That a lot of people appreciate, resonate with and appreciate. So I don't know, it's you can't say that blockbusters can't
Yeah.
achieve any kind of empathy, or like
Yeah.
you can't connect with them in any kind of way.
Mhm.
But I mean, there's so many examples of blockbusters that suck. So
Yeah, I think a
um,
better
There
example.
are plenty examples of indie movies
Yeah.
that suck,
Also,
though.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
like,
that's
I think
true.
a better example of what Scorsese is
It's very
saying
subjective.
is
Yeah.
Transformers.
Yeah.
I think is
Yeah.
is a better example than
yeah,
Marvel.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
For the sake of time, I'm just gonna say Ahmad could not have stated my opinions any better. Like that's exactly how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah, well,
So just for the sake of time, I'll leave
yeah.
it there.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up the final headlines
Yeah.
here.
We
sorry,
can
I
talk.
took too much
so-
time.
Oh, no, you're good. You're
so,
good.
I think there's a lot of this that we could talk about. I really just want to talk about Keanu Reeves in the new SpongeBob movie.
Yeah. Have you seen that, Matt?
I saw just a picture of it. I didn't
Yeah.
see the trailer.
It's
Oh,
amazing that they just like put Keanu Reeves in a tumbleweed and
Yeah,
said,
just his head in a
"Here's the
tumbleweed."
SpongeBob movie."
Which I mean, I guess I'm excited for it. I mean,
I guess I'm sort of like somebody watched an E3 press conference and thought
Like,
this
get
is how,
him.
this is
Get
how
Keanu Reeves.
this is like how we get people to like our movie. I
I
guess.
did the
Uh,
same thing with David Hasselhoff in the first movie.
Yeah,
that's
true,
it's-
yeah.
I didn't even know there was a new
Huh.
SpongeBob movie happening.
Yeah, neither
I
did
mean,
I.
yeah,
yeah.
neither did
I feel
Yeah.
I don't know. Is SpongeBob still popular to like younger kids?
I don't
Because
know.
I feel like
what
if-
kids like.
I
these
mean,
days.
Because
I think-
what do kids? Because like I mean, so like
I
as a-
think anything that like you and I liked
Yeah.
is still around.
well, yeah, it's still around, but doesn't-
I think a
like-
good way of just getting Keanu Reeves in the movie, it gets people like us to talk about it, and like kids younger are still gonna go see it 'cause
Right,
it's
right.
SpongeBob.
Right,
so
yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
it's getting both.
right best of
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
like
Yeah.
I mean like I think like I'm just
Sorry,
One-
I'm
one
still
of the-
just cracking up about like there's just a random tumbleweed and it's just Keanu Reeves in the tumbleweed talking to SpongeBob.
I will say, at 20 years old, I still think the movie looks kind of funny. I'm just saying.
I mean, so what I haven't
It
seen
has style to it.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen any pictures of it. Is it CGI?
It's 3D CGI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it's like it looks kind of like the show.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
stylized very much. It's not like a Pixar style.
Okay,
It's
okay.
it's stylized, and they also, I mean, it's obviously the same voice actors. It kind of looks they're removing frames, kind of like Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse a little bit,
Interesting.
like a little bit of like a
Right,
blocky
like
type
kind of like
movement.
this like
Yeah.
stop motion effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is super
which
interesting.
kind of adheres to like how the show is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think it looks. I mean, obviously it's not made for me, but it
Yeah.
it looks like a fun time that kids will enjoy.
Yeah.
Oh wow, interesting. Oh my, sorry. I just had to realize what was on the. It looks like he's just decapitated. He's just
Yeah, yeah, it's just a Keanu Reeves head
That's
talking
awesome.
to SpongeBob
I mean,
SquarePants.
I feel like as a kid, I would like that's something like David Hasselhoff. That was memorable for the movie. So
Yeah.
like I'd be like
Yeah.
this like Keanu Reeves' head in a tumbleweed. Yeah.
Is this the third SpongeBob movie or the fourth?
I mean, I
the-
think there have been other SpongeBob movies before the most recent
Because
one.
there was the old one that we knew from when we were kids that was
Yeah.
2D.
the best one.
Yeah.
But-
Then there was the one a couple years ago where he's like,
There was like the superhero one, right?
oh, that's not the one. I was talking about the one where like they
Right.
like come to like the real
Right,
world
yep,
and
yep, yep,
like
yep.
there's,
SpongeBob
like,
out of
pirates.
water or
yeah,
something?
like that.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm looking it up.
Which was like not as memorable as like the ending of the original Spon- I mean, any part
Goofy
of it.
Goober Rock is one of the
that
greatest
was
songs of
greatest
all
one.
time.
Yeah.
According to my Twitter sources, it says there's 3 movies, but
Oh, yeah.
you might want to double check.
Yeah.
I see-
According
I
to
see-
Wikipedia, there is the SpongeBob SquarePants movie from 2004, Sponge Out of Water in 2015, and Sponge on the Run in 2020.
Was that was 20? Okay, so it's only 3. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, if you want to take a look at like the different animation styles, there's
Interesting.
some of that.
Oh wow,
I think I like
So the third one seems like it combines elements from both. Is
I would
what-
say so, yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, the third one is sort of like it's taking the 3D animation of the second one and mixing it with the style you would expect from the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You even have the characters in here too listed. You're gonna have SpongeBob, Gary, Patrick, Squidward, Mr. Krabs,
The whole
Plankton,
crew.
Sandy Cheeks,
Yeah.
Mrs. Puff, Pearl. It's gonna have. It even has Karen Plankton, the computer, in there as well.
Aww,
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
I miss SpongeBob, man.
Uh-huh.
And Keanu Reeves as a sage.
Awesome.
Yeah.
They should just be like on the cover,
I was-
like on the cover of
The,
the.
plot, I remember from the old show. It's Gary's missing. It's like, did Gary just run away again, like in the
Gary,
show?
come
God,
home.
if they, I saw that. I was like, if they don't play Gary Come Home in this
Dude,
movie,
that
I'm
one tugged at the heartstrings. Gary, I know I messed up. And
There you go.
Okay, I have to
I want to point out.
We're gonna get copyright strikes. Come on.
I want to point out how good that trailer is
Yeah.
at just like making it relevant.
Mhm.
Because nobody was going to care about this movie if Keanu Reeves wasn't in it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that.
I mean, that'd still be.
Very few people.
Well, the reason
would
why
care
I
about it.
asked whether or not like younger audiences still like right now children
Yeah.
still watch SpongeBob because I'm wondering because if they'll see that same kind of but also
Yeah.
it'll appeal to like us our generation
Yeah.
we're just like
It's-
yeah.
The SpongeBob is like hanging out on rerun
yeah
channel, so like I think that younger audiences still are familiar with SpongeBob.
They're still
and-
making new episodes.
Yeah.
So
Really?
yeah, I mean,
I
there's
thought they had canceled. Like it.
there was like a rumor that it had been canceled, but they're still making new
Yeah.
ones. From what I've heard, like I've seen some like clips, and it's still they still got some gems in there. Like when you've probably seen it. There's like a mom and this little girl, or I mean they're fish, obviously.
Yeah.
But she's like, put your floaties on so you don't drown in the water. She puts the floaties on and she starts like rising to the top like that.
That's
It was-
funny.
That's funny.
Yeah. So we should move on to our 10-minute topics.
Does that cover everything that we had on the?
No, we don't have time for everything.
yeah
that we
this
have
is like
on
the
our
longest
list.
we've gone for news which is a good thing it's a
yeah.
lot of news but
Yeah,
like
it's a good thing, but we got to move on to
we
our
got to move on
topics.
to some important stuff
We can cover what we
Yeah.
didn't cover this week next week.
Oh yeah, we'll do that.
Especially because I suspect next week's not going to be very
yeah
eventful.
I want to I'm gonna volunteer myself to start off
All
first.
right, let's
Okay.
go. Do my
because-
job for me. That's what
yes, that's how I'm gonna step because I'm very I can't hold my
hold it.
excitement
he already got one of my jobs.
anymore. So I can't hold my excitement anymore. I have to talk about a film that I've seen recently. That's my favorite film of the year
Some people's favorite movie of the decade.
of the decade,
Yeah.
which Michael Miller, if you're listening to this,
Hey.
he beforehand he had told me he was like, you ready? I'm gonna hype it up for you, and I'm like, oh man. And then he said it's his favorite film, past decade. So I was like, I wasn't. It's not like I took it. I wasn't skeptical of that because I knew who the filmmaker was,
Yeah.
Bong Joon-ho, who I'm not. So I haven't seen any of his films. I haven't seen
You never
Okja.
said what film it was. What's your-
Oh yeah, I never said myself.
You're leaving me in anticipation.
Yeah, well, that's how what I'm trying. But Parasite, his new film.
This is the director of Snowpiercer.
Yeah, so,
It's
yep.
probably
And
his
Okja.
highest.
Yep.
Yeah, Okja,
Yeah,
Snowpiercer.
those are
The
the
Host.
two probably highest profile movies he's done.
Yep. So he's experienced, he's experiencing like the indie film and like realm, and then also like working his way up to Snowpiercer, which I've heard multiple things. Like I've heard that he, like
Still need to see it.
Snowpiercer. Yeah, I want to see it too. But I heard that
It's pretty good.
that he liked shooting Snowpiercer, but he wanted to kind of bring it back to his more of like this indie, like a smaller scale, not as big scale kind of, which I mean, going from Snowpiercer to a smaller scale film, I feel like you'd be like a lot less stressed maybe. I don't know if but like you're not working with as much money. It's more on a small scale, and it's more specific and concentrated.
If you're an indie director who has directed a blockbuster, I bet directing indie films becomes significantly easier
Yeah.
for you.
And
Like
appar-
you
yeah.
just sort of get money and then make a movie.
And apparently he came up with a concept for Parasite in the editing room, like editing Snowpiercer. He just like some concept
which
that
is
like
cool.
he was working on it, and like it was still in his head. He was just like it was something in my mind. I just didn't know like how to kind of work with it, get it down on paper and stuff. But he ended up doing it, and it's my favorite film of the year.
I would agree with that. Yeah,
and-
absolutely.
and, I mean,
Which is very, very high praise.
Yeah, it's
Some heavy hitters have come out this year.
Yeah, and I want to say, this year hasn't really been. Before I had seen this and before I had seen Lighthouse, it wasn't like spectacular. It wasn't like there hadn't been a film that really resonated with me. I mean, I know the Joker came out and everybody was hyped for it, and it was all right to a certain extent. I mean, it wasn't like it didn't resonate.
Joaquin
Phoenix
Phoenix definitely carried that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it carried the movie, and it wasn't as captivating as like some other films I had seen like the year before.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a slum kind of, but Lighthouse came out, and that really kind of like that really hooked me, and I was. I love that film and I appreciated it so much, and I still do. But Parasite, a film that I wasn't anticipating. I had definitely heard of it, and I knew like a lot of people were excited
Yeah.
about it. But I wasn't familiar with Bong Joon-ho's work, and I just didn't know what to expect. I went into this film, didn't know anything about it, and I'm so happy that I did because it was such a pleasant surprise. I want to start going off of that. I want to start talking about the tonal shifts and how.
Okay.
Matt, you could probably speak to this, but typically this is a very hard thing because there's a lot of films that have failed at this. Switching tones.
Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man. Okay, well, I wouldn't say. I still think Spider-Man 3 is
I take any opportunity I can get, man.
Yeah, but I want to say, so the film has some tonal shifts, and it does such a well job kind of communicating these messages and being able to handle these tonal shifts. Because I was just saying, a lot of films have failed at that, and that could have easily been to the detriment of this film. But it worked so well, and he was able to do it, and it made it. There wasn't a single point in the film where I was like, man, this is dragging on.
Yeah.
Or like the entire film, I was like, it was nearing the end, and I was like, I don't want this film to end, please.
Yeah.
I mean, that could have. I mean,
That's a very good sign.
it's a very good.
Yeah.
I loved every second of it, and I thought it was so well crafted. I can't really speak to the rest of his work, because I really can't say whether or not this is his best film, but that's what I've been hearing.
Yeah. This is gonna be like one of the weirdest comparisons you've ever heard, but like this year, like the Parasite was for what 3 Billboards was for me, 2016, 17. I'm not sure.
No,
Where like the movie's pretty long already as it is, but like I could watch another 8 hours, and when the movie ends, not only is it like a satisfying ending, but like I could watch this movie like I would want to see more, even though like the story's over.
Right.
When my only complaint about the movie is the lightning is obviously a light,
Yeah.
and that's like the only thing I can find wrong with it. Like that you did
Oh,
an
okay.
amazing job.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
It's very clearly not high budget enough to get a lightning VFX.
Yeah.
But that's it.
yeah, that's there's one tiny thing about the ending that I don't really want to say, where I'm just like, how would you not realize that? But like, other than that, I have no complaints with the movie, and that is extremely rare.
It's rare, and it's like. I just get so excited just thinking about some of the sequences.
Yeah.
You mentioned the lightning sequence.
Yeah.
I mean, there was this. So the film does such a good job contrasting this richer life perspective, this richer life, kind of like how these people are living in like this affluent kind of neighborhood, contrasting that, juxtaposing it with like the life of like these like this poor, lower income, like the slums of like like this kind of family that they're living in. I should probably mention the plot, or the story at least, but. So there's a sequence where, without going too much into too detail, because I don't want to spoil too much, because I didn't know anything about this and I loved that. And Matt, you could also hop on this too if I miss something. But it's a family who are living like in the slums. So they live in the slums, and they're having a hard time finding jobs. None of them have jobs or anything, and they're in a really bad situation. So a colleague or friend of one of the family members comes in and tells this person about this like job opportunity to tutor this daughter of this richer family. And that's kind of this person's way out. And even though this person doesn't have the proper like certificates, doesn't have the certification of like being a tutor,
an official tutor.
He's not even in college.
He's not even in college. Yeah, he still sells himself as this person who's like very knowledgeable, and I think he actually says that he's in college.
Yeah,
he lies and says that.
Yeah.
So essentially, he's kind of putting on this like identity that he doesn't have. Are you familiar with Catch Me If You Can at all?
Yeah.
Do you like Leo DiCaprio's character, who kind of like makes himself seem like he's like a pilot, like an airline pilot? He makes himself seem like he's a French teacher. He makes himself so like he's going through these different kind of occupations that he really hasn't, but he sells himself like this. So this person gets into this family, starts to tutor the daughter, and they form a relationship. I don't want to get too involved, kind of make it too convoluted, but essentially what happens is this one person who's tutoring the daughter. He kind of, I don't know what's the good way to put this, but like he sabages another.
I'm gonna cut you off there.
Yeah,
I don't want you to say too much. Because like what happens.
I guess
it's kind of wild.
It's kind of
it
gets wild and unexpected, and it's I don't want to. I shouldn't. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're. I was just like right
good.
there.
So I have a question. So this movie. is Korean. It's a
Yeah,
Korean
Korean
director.
film, yeah.
Is it in Korean or is it in
Yes,
English?
it's in
Okay,
It's
so
in
Yep,
nice.
yep.
Where
So
did you guys
is-
watch this movie?
In
So
Perrysburg.
yeah.
I saw it in Perrysburg.
Levis
Oh,
Commons.
so
Actually,
it's-
me and Matt went to the same
Yeah,
screening. We didn't-
yeah.
I saw Matt walking into the theater.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, he's going to see Parasite.
so it's just getting a North American.
Yeah, well, the
release?
thing is I think
It's
originally
that's really cool.
yeah, it won the what's the Cannes Award at the
Palme
the
d'Or,
Palme d'Or or something.
Yeah,
Won
yeah.
the grand prize at Cannes. But I think originally got a limited release and then because it can't like the Cannes they won the award like early
Yeah.
October I think. So it's had a while. It's had a pretty long run like limited and now it's kind of seeing this wider
Wider
release.
yeah.
I would recommend if you're interested to see it somewhat soon because
Okay.
I don't know how long it'll stay
Yeah.
in theaters.
When's it? I mean, is it one of those ones where you have to see it in the theater, or do
Oh,
you think?
I think you have to see this in the theater. But that's coming from me. That doesn't really mean a lot because I think you should see every movie in the theater. I just think based off of the cinematography and how it looks, like it deserves to be seen in
Yeah.
the theater.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I definitely would like to if I can get a chance
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
see it.
Yeah, no, I know.
because I agree. I would like to see every movie in the theater. Problem is, it's not always
Yeah.
viable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, so is this a horror film or thriller? Or...
So back to the tonal shift situation.
Okay.
It does so. The tone shifts throughout the film, but like I said,
Consistently, I would say it's a drama throughout. The
yeah,
entire
consistently
thing.
it's more of a drama, but there are these humorous moments.
Sure.
And they work well because a lot
Yeah.
of times that could be jarring. I mean, in many instances, I mean, I know some people like. That's one of the criticisms of Joker, for instance.
Yeah.
Some of the humorous moments didn't land as much, but in this film, it does a really nice job, and it's so well crafted that the tonal shifts aren't jarring, and
Yeah.
they don't take you out of the film. Where it's just like, oh man, I wish this didn't happen, or I wish they didn't. This is a dramatic moment. Why are they making these jokes?
Yeah.
So
I mean, even when they had the tonal shifts, I thought that like
it
kind of added to the
enhanced.
movie.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
did. It
yeah.
did. It did. It very much so. Because like there was there's a couple of moments. I mean. I shouldn't spoil it because there's.
Yeah.
It was warm-hearted when it needs to be warm-hearted,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
It worked well.
Yeah,
It worked well as a satire. It worked
Oh.
well as a satire because you're looking at this film. I just mentioned how it compares and juxtaposes like this richer life with this poorer life, which is a theme that resonates with me very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So it resonates with me. I mean, I talked to you about this, but like Matt, you mentioned that it is unfair to compare Lighthouse
Yeah.
to this film Parasite, but they came out so recently and they're both really good films that I think it's going to be a hard time. I mean, it's hard for me not to compare them, but
it's hard not to compare them. But like the movies are so
they're so different.
Yeah,
They're so
uh-huh.
different, but like they're both unique in their own ways.
Sure,
And they both
yeah.
work for what they
Yeah,
they are.
absolutely.
So it's a
Um,
satire on income inequality.
Um,
Or-
it's a satire
It's-
more on like the kind of the social hierarchy
Yeah.
and how so for instance I mentioned like there's a scene I don't know if I did describe this but there's a scene where Matt mentioned like the lightning and how it kind of looked a little weird but
Yeah.
like which I mean like
You-
it was even then it wasn't
even that.
yeah
jarring.
it
It's
wasn't
just-
jarring at all it was just like one of those things but like
It's just a nitpick.
I understand that it's a lower budget
Yeah.
film. They don't have, but so this richer, so this in this one scene they're kind of like it's raining. The rain is coming down heavily, and this family's in their like really like fancy house, and they're looking at the
rain.
outward and
Yeah.
at the rain, and they view it as this very beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful moment in the
it-
film,
it is a
especially
beautiful
with
moment.
the entire family
Right,
there.
right, in
and
that
like,
situation,
and
yeah.
it's
Right,
it's-
and it works very well. And
Yeah.
like it was, but like also even in that scene itself, God, I want to spoil it.
Yeah.
No.
oh my, that scene.
Okay, but
oh
like,
my
but
God,
but there were some well, like the acting is really well done.
Oh my God,
But
absolutely.
So juxtaposed with what though? You were
so
saying?
the rain is
Sorry.
looking.
I was like, wait,
So-
what?
So
the-
the idea is that
So
it's like they're looking down on the
right. No.
lowering
Well,
down.
let's
Kind of,
let's.
kind of,
let-
yeah.
So the same family who was in the slums is in a situation now where they're looking out at this rain in this fancy house, right? And they view it as such a beautiful thing, like it's such a
Oh.
pristine and like peaceful thing, this peaceful moment.
Then
Cut to a later scene.
Sorry.
I don't want to. Should I?
I
Okay.
don't think it's a bad thing
Okay,
to
yeah,
talk about,
because it's such a well done scene. They cut to a moment where they need to go back to their like the slums, and the rain is so heavy and like it's coming down for hours now that it floods these people's houses because they're in like this lower. I think there's some kind of like
okay.
elevation thing
Yeah,
where like the rich people are like literally higher.
legitimately
Legit higher,
Yeah.
higher up, and like the lower people in the slums are lower down, which means that the rain kind of accumulates down and falls into like these slums, and these apartments are starting to flood.
Interesting.
And like I just love this idea of like this. Earlier on, this rain was viewed as this beautiful, peaceful moment, and later it's viewed as this thing that's destroying these like lower income people's houses.
Yeah.
Hopefully I didn't slaughter this, but like, but like for instance, that's one example. Another example is in the same vein. They're having to. There was this one scene where like one of the rich ladies goes into her closet and she picks from there's like this she has a lot of clothes in like this walk-in closet, and it's beautiful, and like it literally cuts to a shelter where like people are picking through like clothing on the ground, and like it's like juxtaposing these kind of like these themes and ideas. I think
that's cool.
So.
I have a question, but then we have to move on.
I don't want to move on. I want to talk about this.
So we talked about how like this movie. You guys were talking about how this movie really balanced its tones well, and I think that there are other movies that manage to like sort of shift tone and like incorporate humor into dramatic moments and things like that.
It's so hard to say without getting into spoiler territories.
But like, but I wonder if, like, one of the questions I have is like, do you guys happen to know what Korean audiences thought about this? Like, Korean speaking audiences thought about this movie because if they had more of a lukewarm reaction, I wonder if that would say more about like maybe the language barrier interfering with that, because like a joke that I'm just reading is maybe a little bit easier for me to take in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I've always tried to like I've always thought of ever since like the beginning of my time here. This is one example of how a film from a different part of the world can still resonate with audiences across the entire ocean and in a different part of the globe.
In a language you have no understanding.
Yeah. So I think that this film is authentic, and I think that I don't think it'll be met with lukewarm reviews. I haven't looked into this specifically, but this is based on my kind of like my understanding of the film at least. And if it's not something that's from what I understand, I think Bong Joon-ho is more of this is an authentic film to him, and this is a film that he's been meaning to tell. So I wouldn't see why it's not authentic. There's a lot of moments that I could tell are authentic because there's a lot of these like cultural kind of cultural etiquettes, but also like cultural like some of the jokes. Or some of like the humorous moments I understood, and I grew up here, so it's not jarring, and that doesn't take away from the film. And if anything, it makes me so happy because like it's an important film. It's an important film because it's unique. It's unique. Although like I mentioned, Catch Me If You, and like the story might not be like the most original thing, but. It was refreshing. It was completely refreshing, and I mean there's really nothing that's completely original ever. But like it was refreshing for me, and it's a type of film that comes along every once in a while, and it like revitalizes this love for film and like what it can mean in like an industry that's so kind of clouded with a lot of like sequels or like things that are spin-offs of other like films or existing franchises. So, like I said, I wanted to see more of this. I didn't want it to end, which I guess completely like.
It's a very, very good sign.
It's a good sign. I mean, even though I just mentioned the whole prequel sequel thing, I just they could leave it at this. I
hope they leave it. At this.
It's kind of it doesn't.
There are some movies where it's just like end on a high note.
It doesn't make doesn't make any sense for this movie to have any kind of sequel. But like I'm just saying like. That's how good it was. If there was an hour longer, I would have stayed, and I wouldn't have complained, and it would have been enjoyable.
And I'm going to jump in just really, really quick here. Yeah. Like, it has one of the most tense scenes like I've seen in years.
I was on the edge of my seat. I was on the edge of my seat, specifically halfway through the film.
Yeah.
And just the rest of the film is. It's so well done. It's so well done, and like some of the visuals, dude. This is God.
Are the rich characters the bad guys?
Oh, okay. So that's actually something I wanted to say. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
So there's something that's interesting about this film is like the poor. Usually, I think this is something that's very like
it's misrepresentation. Poor people in film are usually like these stupid people who like really don't know, like they don't know, like they're in their places, they're in their situations because they aren't educated, and obviously richer people are viewed as like this like these smarter, more affluent people, but the poor people in this film are viewed as very smart, and this is, I mean, obviously they try to get out of the situation because of their kind of smarts and wits.
Not to say that the rich people are dumb.
Well, no, and like
yeah.
I was gonna say, and like going from that, the rich people aren't really they don't make the rich people seem like they're malicious, or they're not portrayed as these bad people necessarily. They're just there, and they're kind of existing within the space, and I would say conversely, like the poor people at some points, you know, you're obviously, I shouldn't, but
you're kind of rooting for the poor people, but they do
But
some
it's only
bad
just
things.
based off of like the perspective that
yeah,
you get from
right,
the movie, though.
But this is the
Yeah.
thing: is that they're in this situation, they're in this very bad situation. They're in the slums, and they're willing to do what they need to do in order to get out of this situation. And we need to do some spoiler reviews.
Yeah, once I see it, I think Ezra and I both are probably interested in it now.
Because once I guess final thoughts. So they don't. To answer your question, they don't really portray the rich people as bad people. They're you know, as you mentioned why the film is called Parasite. I hope maybe this gives you some insights, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know,
Without any specifics, I have no
no
idea.
It does sound a lot like Snowpiercer now that I'm hearing about what
Yeah.
it's about.
Right,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like I think that's one thing about Snowpiercer that's interesting is I think there's more of the thematic elements are but
Seems like a topic that the director himself
right.
is interested in
Right.
exploring.
Yeah. But it doesn't like the rich people aren't bad guys, but the poor people they're not
necessarily good guys.
they're not
either,
necessarily
yeah.
good guys. You're rooting for like this. I want to say I don't know if anti-hero is the right use, but you know they're not necessarily doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
you understand why they need to do
Yeah.
it though, because they are in this crappy situation that
Yeah.
they're in. So in that vein, you empathize with them, and that's I think. At essence, that's what I empathize with them, or that's what resonated with me the most.
I don't want to say too much, but like I feel like the only reason where I was having trouble empathizing with them at points, which I think is kind of the point, especially going in.
Especially
what
with
happens.
even some other characters who you
Yeah,
later
absolutely.
find out later on who are not in this.
Careful.
So and then like I just love how you know it's on this kind of different. It goes from different spectrum, like on the different sides of the spectrum of empathizing with them, and then like you're like oh crap, like they did something that's really kind of, and then
it's just like I feel like the only reason where I'm just like the only reason I'm rooting for them is because I've been with them at this point, and if like the story was told from a completely different
and
point,
their acting is so charismatic though. And like it's so hard not to like you're just like oh, I'm on their side now, but. All right, I'm ready to move on. Even though I want to talk about this more.
All right,
I'm
Sawyer.
definitely interested in seeing it.
You have sparked my interest in this.
Very interesting. I think it would appeal to both of you.
So with that, Sawyer, you want to talk about BioShock?
Okay, so I just beat this game. I think it was last Monday. I think is when I beat it.
Veterans Day.
Yes.
Okay. Veterans Day 2019.
I had played a third of this game before on my PS3 years ago, and for some reason I just never finished it. But I picked up the collection for PS4, playing the HD remastered version, and this game is really, really good.
Yeah.
So, do you
Lots of
guys
people,
know
like, put it
anything
up there.
about BioShock?
I know a tiny bit.
I know that it's sort of like wacky, but it's a survival horror game that's kind of wacky.
I know like the "Would you kindly" thing, and I know that it's like underwater, and that's about it.
Okay. So that first part's kind of a spoiler.
Oh,
but
yeah, sorry.
So
but you didn't say too much,
Okay,
so you're
yeah,
good.
I remember because last year my roommate was playing through the games, and I saw a lot of some walkthroughs, or not walkthroughs, but like him playing.
You saw him playing,
And I got some of the story, and I mean I like the aesthetic of the game. I mean you could probably.
So basically, the reason you go into this game is for the story.
Uh-huh.
So basically, it starts off you play as you're mostly a silent protagonist throughout most of the game. His just name is Jack. Of course, typical video game protagonist, Jack, John, something like that for a video game protagonist. But he's on a plane and it crashes in the middle of the ocean. The only thing nearby is a lighthouse. You get out of the wreckage, you swim up, and you swim towards this lighthouse.
Interesting.
And you take what's called a bathysphere down into the ocean, and there's like this voiceover from a man named Andrew Ryan on the radio. He's the guy who built this city. He's kind of like a Henry Ford type, I guess, but he's definitely he has a banner, and this banner pretty much sums up his whole ideology is no gods, no kings, only man. And he's basically
Sorry, that's just so heavy-handed.
Yeah, I know, but like that's the banner he has on.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
his whole thing in creating Rapture, this underwater city,
Yeah.
is he wanted to be free from. He even says this and like explaining it to the people who are coming into Rapture, free from government, free from petty morality, as he calls it. Basically, a place where you can do what you want and you're not shackled to anything or anybody. Where you focus on what you want first, and society will benefit from you chasing what you want. It's kind of it's basically about objectivism and the whole Ayn Rand. Basically, Atlas Shrugged is what you're playing.
Okay, so it's Ayn Rand the video game.
Basically,
Okay.
yes. What I think is interesting though is it states how, but it's not basically these people are terrible. It's basically saying that like it's used more of a backdrop to say, when humans don't have anything keeping them in line, things are going to go bad. And that's a running theme throughout all the games. Now, I'm playing through the whole series at first. I've played Infinite in like 2013, so it's been a while, and I'm playing through the second one now.
Are you gonna play Infinite again?
I'm going to play Infinite again for sure, because I didn't think at 13 years old, I don't think I fully understood it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play it again at some point.
Yeah.
But it's the whole thing about Bioshock in each game, because Infinite's in a different city, but it's a whole other thing, is that what happens to humanity when there's nothing to keep it in line. And I think it's interesting, but essentially you get down here, the city of Rapture is stunning in this game. It still holds up more than 10 years after the game. I've been playing the remastered version.
Sure.
Yeah,
But
it's a PS3 era
yeah,
game.
PS3, Xbox 360 game. So essentially the city, what makes it look so nice, it's all underwater, and of course it's all glass, so like windows and everything, so you're seeing outside, and there's like these buildings and billboards and lights and everything you're seeing through the water. And of course what's really cool is they have an opening where you're coming down to the city, and it's like this establishing shot, and as you see the city, there's also like a squid that floats that swims through it, and some fish and everything.
Yeah,
It
that's
looks
cool.
beautiful.
Yeah, I already talked to you. Like I really like the aesthetic that it has. I mean, what's
The Art Deco design.
Yeah, the Art Deco design. More like this Metropolis kind of like Batman animated.
Well, I mean,
Gotham
you just said it
city.
right there, Metropolis,
Yeah,
the old
yeah,
1922
right.
or 27, I
Right.
think.
So like,
Yeah.
I that's kind of an aesthetic that I like.
It's the Art Deco. Do you have anything else? you
No,
want
I was
to
just
say?
saying it works well.
Yeah, the Art Deco design is beautiful in this game. It takes place in 1960, I believe.
Okay.
Now the gameplay mechanics, it's a first-person shooter first and foremost, but it's a lot of exploration, and you can switch between two different mechanics. Your left hand is a plasmid, which is basically you'll get like power-ups throughout the game, and you kind of inject them into you, and it gives you different powers. And so you have electricity, fire. There's one that's wind, I think. Earth, water, fire, air. There's
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
there's a couple others, but I mean, I mostly always
Yeah.
just use fire and electricity. But the electricity one comes in handy because if there's any enemies standing in puddles of water, because like half the city is leaking,
Yeah.
you can just shock them,
Yeah.
and it takes them out with
Right.
one hit.
If I recall, like I remember because like my roommate would have like the lights off, and like it's a pretty tense, scary.
Yeah.
I mean, so kind
It's
of
not scary, but it's tense.
It's tense, yeah.
That you never know what's lurking behind you,
Sure.
and it also does that whole thing where it's the city, you don't know what happened to it when you get there, but something clearly went wrong. And there's like this one shot, like basically they have a lot of, like in the original Halloween where they use the Mr. Sandman song.
Yeah.
It's like a positive song, but it's used in a creepy vibe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like positive, upbeat 1960s, 50s era songs that play during like really messed up
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like a bunch of trailers nowadays.
Basically.
So it's basically literally everything that comes out in the 2010s.
Like, if you want a
okay.
good example, watch Jeremy Johns did a review of this game like years ago. He does a good example of it. I think the game is pulls off the aesthetic really well. There's also probably the most iconic part of this game are the Big Daddies.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you guys know what those are?
Yeah, the Big
Okay.
Daddies.
They're-
I would
they're
watch.
like- I couldn't like describe one, but I think
I know what they
you're
look
talking
like. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
anything
basically,
else
the
about them.
mechanics in this game, as you're exploring around the city and fulfilling your
Yeah.
objectives, it's a semi-open world game. Like you can go back and forth to other locations, but it's only a straight narrow
Yeah,
path.
it's
to
not.
progress.
It's not a giant map.
It's not a giant
Yeah.
map, but there's places you can explore that you don't have to find new power ups. You scavenge a lot for ammo,
Which is
food,
cool.
health packs.
Mhm.
I will say, in terms of challenge, granted I played it on easy because I wanted for the story, not for the actual gameplay.
Sure.
But by the end, I had so much ammo and health packs towards the end, I just started like throwing money because there's money everywhere essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Big Daddies are essentially they protect what's called little sisters,
Okay.
and they're these little girls that had been imbued with something called Adam. I know, really subtle, Adam and Eve, because Eve is the power if you shoot.
Yeah. Of course.
Real subtle.
No.
But Adam is like this parasite, at least in the last thing we talked about,
Yeah.
they found at the bottom of the ocean that kind of is like everybody wants because it's almost like a drug almost. And you need this atom in order to purchase more upgrades or plasmids.
Yeah.
And essentially, there's two options. It's kind of like a semi-moral choice thing. You can either harvest them, which basically just means kill them and take all their atom, for more atom, or you can kind of save them with a power-up that somebody else gives you. You'll get less atom, but you will get more rewards later on for saving them. Also, it does change the ending based on what you choose to do.
Interesting.
Um,
So it's kind of like it's like if Infamous were wacky.
I wouldn't quite call this game wacky, though. Like, the tone is
It
very
does have
serious.
a wacky kind of aesthetic.
It's
though.
got a wacky premise and aesthetic, but it takes itself very
Yeah,
seriously.
I mean, I wouldn't even say the aesthetic is wacky. I mean, like it's different,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and I would
Maybe I'm just thinking too much about Infinite, but
yeah,
because I know
Infinite is
more about
also a
Infinite.
slightly different game. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the first Bioshock, at least, the Big Daddies are just roaming the map. They never
Okay.
stay in one place the whole time, and it's basically just them and the little sister going around.
the little sister's creepy, dude.
Yeah, the little sisters are creepy.
Especially like when when you kill the Big Daddies, and I think this little sister doesn't she like lead you somewhere, or she just stays
no.
there? Oh,
Like
okay.
they stay right there and they cry over the Big Daddy's
Oh,
body.
Yeah.
But they sometimes the ones that you do convert, they go like, "Thank you, Mister," and then
Yeah.
like sprint off to a hole so they
Yeah.
can climb up.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
But it's the voices, like they have like this weird like reverb to them when they're possessed towards it, so it's hard to describe. But when you're in the map, especially towards the beginning where you have very little guns or ammo, and you hear the Big Daddy, they go like like a hum noise, and you hear the boom of their feet because they're like 2 tons.
Dude, you gotta run.
You're like, oh no, like, I'm quickly like reloading my gun as I hear that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the Big Daddies are probably the most iconic part, and what's really interesting is
Yeah.
you don't have to even fight them. Like in order to get the to free the little sisters, you have to. But and when you leave a level, you'll get a pop up that says like, "Hey, you haven't got all the Big Daddies here. Do you want to stay here?"
Yeah.
But you actually don't have to. It's just a cool extra mechanic.
Yeah.
But the
That's cool.
fights are difficult. In fact, the Big Daddy fights are actually more difficult than the final boss. The final boss is actually a breeze.
Yeah.
But the story is why you
Because
go
played
into
on
this
easy.
game. Well, that's true. Yeah. The
Matt
yeah.
just like roasts.
That's
Sawyer.
probably a good point. Yeah. But yeah, the story is why you go into this. It's really interesting. It also presents how like you don't know everything. It's kind of, I guess, a good example would be like a Half-Life, or it's also very clearly a spiritual successor to System Shock.
Would you say it does a good job of like you don't know anything because like you're a character that just
Yeah.
like showed up in the middle of the ocean and you're just like, oh, what the hell's this?
Without
Yeah.
saying too much, yes.
Okay.
Your character is essentially just a blank slate for you.
Okay, yeah.
And now there is some backstory you get
Sure.
later on, but there's not really a whole lot that's built into him.
Right.
Okay.
That will change in sequels, but like you play as a different character in each game. So
Yeah.
But at least in the first one, the game is not necessarily about your character. It's essentially the story happens around you.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely, if you play the game, pick up all the audio logs that you can find because it gives you more backstory about what happened.
Okay.
So like it's people talking about like apparently it was a civil war.
Okay.
Or like different characters who you'll find later on. Like there was a doctor that went kind of nuts and was obsessed with asymmetry, so he kept doing like all this different plastic surgery and messing people's faces up and stuff. Like it's
Yeah, it's a pretty detailed. I mean, like
Sounds
there's.
Outlast.
Yeah, what makes it creepy is
some world building.
what makes it creepy is you're seeing all this after the fact.
Yeah.
So like it's just
Yeah.
essentially you're walking around this dilapidated city pretty much on your own, aside from a couple what's called splicers, which are just the remaining citizens that are hopped up on gene splicing, which is
Sure.
the plasmids,
Yeah.
and Andrew Ryan apparently one of the guys uses pheromones to kind of control the remaining ones against you.
Interesting.
They're essentially just drug addicts that he uses to go fight you. But really, other than a couple of them and Big Daddies, you're really in this city by yourself, and you're picking up these audio logs and hearing about all this bad stuff that happened in this city,
yeah.
Which is
like
kinda-
2 years before you
Which
got
is
there.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's a neat idea.
It's interesting to see. I highly recommend it. The gameplay is a bit dated. I will say that in terms of
It's kind of not.
of gunplay, it's not aged very well, and the graphics on the character models are definitely a bit dated, even on the remastered version. But the city still looks great. The story is still worth going for.
That's kind of what you're going into for anyway.
And
so.
if you are interested in the series, you can get the remastered versions of 1, 2, and Infinite, as well as all of their single player DLC in a bundle for like $20
which is
on both Xbox One and PS4.
that's a good deal.
Yeah.
And PC, I
Three
believe.
AAA releases for $20.
And
is
technically,
really
you
good.
get 4 because Infinite had Burial at Sea Parts 1 and 2, which essentially was a side story.
Interesting.
That and Minerva's Den on Bioshock 2. But I definitely, even if you're not a gamer, I would say like watch the cutscenes. Even though there really isn't any cutscenes, but like watch the story on YouTube in like a Bioshock movie or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Bioshock
How long
would.
is it?
I did fully like a lot of exploration. I didn't do
Okay.
just the story, so my experience was probably a lot longer than most people's.
Mhm.
I ended up probably putting in around 25 hours.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So yeah, it's probably like a 15-hour commitment.
Yeah.
If you want to just do the story stuff.
And if you're taking out the optional audio logs, the game is probably only about 4 or 5 hours. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that bad. But
Especially if you're not fighting like Big Daddies and stuff.
yeah, if you're skipping all the Big Daddies and exploration and power.
But where's the fun of that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what makes Bioshock great. Like the story is interesting, but immersing yourself in the world is what makes this game worth it.
Yeah.
If you're just breezing through, speed running it, and just getting the guns you need and fighting all the required bosses and doing all the requirements, you're not gonna have a good time.
Exactly how I feel about Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah, so like if you're just speed running and getting all the requirements done, it's just kind of a whatever game.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
taking your time and immersing yourself in Rapture and listening to the audio logs, collecting power ups, fighting Big Daddies.
Yeah.
You'll get a good experience.
Yeah.
Now, in case it takes a couple weeks before I'm able to finish the remaining 2, I'll give a quick preview.
Okay.
Okay.
Bioshock 2 still takes place in Rapture, but for avoiding spoilers, there's a new leader in charge, and this one goes more into why communism is bad. And you actually play as a Big Daddy rather than playing as somebody else. But just because I'm saying there's a new leader does not necessarily spoil things the way you might think.
Interesting.
So,
And then Infinite is Troy Baker hanging out with himself. for-
Infinite, you play as Booker DeWitt. It takes place in 1912, and you're on the floating city of Columbia. That one goes more into, instead of like the absence of government and regulation, it goes more into a religious cult. They basically idolize and worship George Washington, Ben Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson. They have also like these robots that are called the Founding Fathers or something like that. It also it's like this weird idyllic city where, unlike Rapture, where you get to Rapture and everything is just dilapidated and destroyed from the moment you get there, the creepy thing about Columbia is everything is still kind of like this nice little, like, almost Magic Kingdom-esque. Like, you know Main Street USA, Magic Kingdom?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that aesthetic.
Pretty cool.
And you get in
Which
there
is
and you
cool.
realize, like, something's off, and you start seeing these things where you're like, huh, there's nobody who's not white here. Yeah, there's like there's some things they acknowledge
Interesting.
later on. It's like
Interesting.
it slowly starts to unravel. There's some stuff going on here.
Like
that,
it gets kind of messed up.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
It's unlike Bioshock 1 where it just messed up from the start. Things slowly unravel. And you're like, something's wrong
It's
here.
more like
Yeah.
a like uncovering a mystery rather than
Also, the Skyrail sequences, even though there's not very many of them, on the Skyrail, basically you have like this hook you would like hang onto and shoot with one hand.
I've seen
I
that.
played. I
That's
actually
fun.
played. I had to like. They looked it looked fun, so I was like, let me take a jab at this.
I do
just
think
did some Skyrim.
Ezra, I think you would probably like the first two. I think you take some issue with ideas in Infinite,
Okay.
but I do think you would enjoy the gameplay.
I mean, I
overall.
take issue with the very premise of the first one, so
Yeah, but like it's, that I do think though, like it's an interesting story to see.
Yeah, no, I-
Come on,
yeah.
Ezra. Look
I'm
at
not I'm not that close-minded that I
Yeah.
won't.
Well, I mean,
absorb
like I don't
it.
totally agree with
It's-
everything in the first game either. But what I think is so interesting about the Bioshock games is they don't necessarily take a side. They just
Yeah.
present a possible, without going into
They
spoilers.
just like present a perspective,
They present a possible way things could go
Yeah.
if this happened. But
which is I don't have an issue with that. I have an issue with games moralizing at me.
that, and I definitely think
I have a problem with that.
I definitely think this is a series you would like.
Yeah,
Now,
I-
in terms of gameplay, I don't know how many first-person shooters you.
No, I
typically
mean,
play.
I so like I said, like my roommate was playing it, and like every once in a while, like I would just be like, hey, could I? I mean, like I would play it too. So, I'm familiar with it a little bit, but I mean, it's been a while, and also I didn't play the entire thing through, so
I highly recommend them. The first game, especially, is a really good, just like a rainy day game.
yeah.
And Matt, I know we haven't talked about video games very often,
Yeah.
but I think you'd probably like them
Okay,
based on the aesthetic alone.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will stay tuned for my review of Bioshock 2 and Bioshock Infinite.
And for Star Wars,
Jedi Fallen Order.
and for
Death
Death
Stranding.
Stranding.
Oh, you gotta
He's
got
got-
when to break.
And I gotta play Control as well. I've been wanting to play Control.
Oh yeah,
too.
Control. Maybe we'll play that like side by side.
Yeah, because I gotta play Control.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the Alan Wake Experience DLC. Hopefully it's an Alan
Let's
Wake
do it.
Experience.
Yeah.
That's another game I've been telling you guys all to play
Yeah.
for months.
Yeah.
That's the old like Ghost one, right? Or,
It's not really Ghost,
It's
but
an
yeah.
it's an OG Xbox.
Yeah.
one.
No,
Okay,
Xbox 360.
Oh.
I know what you're talking about.
Have
Yeah.
you played it?
No.
Oh, okay. Definitely check that out.
Okay.
Like that's a
Yeah.
game I think you would actually really enjoy.
Sure. Yeah.
But everybody in this room would really enjoy
Yeah,
it.
I'm just waiting for some time to
Yeah.
play.
I'm genuinely surprised how much I actually ended up loving that game.
Mm.
Like I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna play it and be
Right,
done with
right.
it. I've had
Yeah.
this game for a couple of years. Might
And,
as well
then,
beat
and now it's like jumped to like your top 20.
it probably is in my top 20 actually.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's move on. I'm gonna give some brief first impressions of Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Sure.
I've only been playing Sword. Everyone else of like my friends that went to the midnight release, they all got Shield. So I'm the outlier.
Are both these games 60 apiece?
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
it's,
Wait,
it's,
I thought it
it's
was
very expensive.
So there was a so online it says $45.90 like $45, and then for each game, but there's a deal for like 100 like
that is
10,
that
100,
sounds too good to be true.
111 for both.
Maybe
Huh.
like Amazon, like they have that like first 2 weeks deal or something
Yeah.
like that.
Amazon sometimes like it had Jedi Fallen Order for 50 instead of 60, but I didn't get it in time. It was like,
Yeah,
crap,
you
now
could
it's
buy
like at
the-
60.
You
Yeah.
could buy the double pack for 120.
Yeah,
Oh, man, that's
which
60
is
and
the
60.
same, which is the same, which is the same
Yeah,
price.
yeah.
It's just like you get a little bit more stuff. I
Yeah.
think if you buy the double pack.
I'm sure there's probably a pre-order now and get a bonus.
Yes.
whatever.
Because because the ones if you want to buy them single on Amazon it's 54. Sorry.
Oh, that's
Which,
not
I mean,
as bad.
I guess you pay
$5
Really?
off.
You save save $6.
Yeah, yeah. It was 61. It was 60 when I bought it.
Oh.
64 with tax.
Well, Ezra, you got
but,
scammed.
You got
I
scammed.
literally bought it from GameStop. If
Oh, GameStop would
is-
never scam
If,
anybody. No.
if GameStop is scamming me on a new product, then that company is dying this year.
Did you buy it at the one uptown? I
On
think.
Main Street?
Yeah. Okay. That's
Yeah.
right. The guys there are pretty nice.
Yeah, they are.
This is just local news now. yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about the the GameStop on Main Street in Bowling Green,
Hey.
Ohio.
If anyone who works at the GameStop on Main Street, shout out. You're
Yeah, shout out to you. You're cool. But yeah, I've played 2.5 hours of this, give or take. That's at least that's what the game says I've played. So, you know it must be true. But the where to start? So it opens just like any other Pokemon game, and I guess the first thing I'll talk about is it's HD Pokemon. We haven't had an HD Pokemon except for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but those were kind of like more of a streamlined version of the original games than like a core entry in the franchise. And right now, I think I don't know if I've played enough of it to formulate like a truly thought through opinion, but what I have played has been really fun. I think the opening, I think, is a little bit like it draws you in maybe a little bit more than other openings in the Pokemon franchise, because some especially in the earlier days, this is maybe sort of a trend that they started with the most recent generation, but like in the earlier days, you were just starting out your adventure and then you would like run into the legendary Pokemon later on, and like maybe they would become part of the story, but it would develop over time, like, and you wouldn't hear about it until like after the second boss fight in the game. Whereas like this game, like you start the game, you get your starter Pokemon, and then immediately you go through like the first little path, and then you're fighting a legendary that just kicks your butt. Spoilers, I guess.
I mean, is that really a...
It's in the first like 10 minutes of the game. Like you're not.
Dang it.
Darn,
like-
I got a game that I was never gonna buy spoiled for. Darn. Yeah. Hey, that's not talking trash.
No,
It's just like
yeah.
I'm not really a Pokemon guy.
Yeah. So I think that like that was kind of cool, especially like you have to lose that battle. Like I remember a very long time ago, somebody on a forum post complaining like, "Oh, you know what? There should be a Pokemon battle that you have to lose," because that's kind of a staple in JRPGs sometimes, is that they're like a character will show up that just kicks your butt and you can't do anything
I'm
about
pretty
it.
sure that's in like every JRPG.
I don't know about every JRPG,
A
but
lot of
a lot of
JRPGs.
them. It's a tradition at this point. Like you have to have a character that just kicks your butt.
Right.
SpongeBob, I'm gonna kick your butt. I had to.
Is there a SpongeBob JRPG that I'm not aware of?
I wish that would be great.
That would be something.
Yeah.
Battle of Bikini Bottom. That's how it-
Battle of
yeah.
Bikini
Oh.
Bottom.
But
Kabini Bottom. But yeah, I mean the game is very pretty. I think the complaints about it not being pretty
yeah,
are
it looks,
kind of
a lot of stuff I've seen looks really good.
So
Yeah.
the biggest controversy is that you cannot catch them all.
yeah. So
whoa.
yeah. So the
Way to
the
mind
the tagline for the series is false as of this game, because
Wrong.
It's a pretty good tagline.
Oh, my,
It's a pretty good
oh
thing.
my goodness. The I don't remember the exact total of like individual Pokemon that there are.
Oh,
but
yeah, I think you talked about
There's over 1,000 now, isn't there?
no. I don't know if as of this game there are over 1,000, but I know beforehand it wasn't quite there.
Okay.
They were at,
it's
like,
getting close
900.
though. Yeah.
Yeah. And in this game, so it's not just a matter of like you can't catch them all, because you could never catch them all in a single Pokemon game.
Yeah.
But it's that like over half of the Pokemon are not programmed into the game. That's the controversy. If it were like any other Pokemon game where it's just like a limited amount are found within the game itself, and you have to like trade or transfer from older games to get those Pokemon, nobody would be angry about
Yeah.
it. but it's just the fact that they literally aren't programmed into the game is suspect.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of those Pokemon have been using the same models for 6 years now.
'Cause I have heard it's just the 3DS models upscaled.
Yeah, like the 3DS models were built to last, and so like the excuse of them trying to make better animations by cutting out Pokemon doesn't really hold water as much. Now I will say one of the interesting things about this game's marketing campaign was like what is interesting about it is that they have turned it very much into what you would expect out of a typical JRPG, because like older Pokemon games, they're JRPGs, but it's more like it takes a kind of generic JRPG formula, does something a little bit different with it, and then like makes the monster capturing more important than some of the other stuff, and then removes some of the baseline ideas like cooking, like sort of in the background elements that will like lend you rewards while you're still playing the game and stuff like that, or like storyline beats and stuff like that. And this game really brings forth JRPG tradition into Pokemon, which I think is again, I haven't played enough, so I don't know if this is a continuing factor, but I do know that the fact that cooking is in a Pokemon game is interesting to me, because that's a JRPG tradition that is just like not that was not in Pokemon previously, except for like some mini games where it didn't matter.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and the other thing that's really interesting is I think persistent online in a Pokemon game is actually really interesting.
How do you do that in handheld? Like if you're on the go, you don't have.
If you're on the go, you can turn it. Like you have to turn it on.
Oh, okay.
Like you have to intentionally connect to the internet in the game, which is really cool. I like that. I assume you have to pay for the online service to access it.
$20 a year though. I mean,
it's not
and
it's
you get
not
free
bad for
SNES
what
games,
you're getting.
so.
Yeah. The other what's interesting about it is that there's a little bit of interaction with, like, you can visit other characters or other players' camps. And then in the open world spaces, you see them all like roaming around the area, which I think is really cool. I don't know how much it affects, if at all. I don't know how much it affects gameplay. I suspect it doesn't, except for like trading player IDs on the go without having to access a menu. But yeah, I think that was one of the things that really sold me when I heard about it, was like, oh, they have persistent online in a Pokemon game. I'm really curious, like, on the merit of me being really curious to see what that looks like. I was kind of like, okay, I kind of just want to play it to see it.
Yeah.
So, I'm cautiously impressed right now. I don't want to say it's like game of the year quality, because a lot of people are saying that, and it's I don't know. Astral Chain is probably my game of the year, but
I'm probably gonna play mine in 2 weeks. So
what, Death Strand?
Either that or Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
It's Star Wars,
It is Star Wars.
I'm not like much of. I don't mean to jump in here.
Oh yeah.
I'm not much of like a gamer, if you will. What else has like come out this year? Like besides Modern Warfare and the Star Wars game.
Call of Duty was that?
Call of Duty is Modern Warfare.
Astral Chain.
Astral Chain is incredible.
Okay.
Control, I believe, is this year.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. Yeah, that game's pretty.
That's
big.
gonna get some nominations.
Probably. Days Gone, was that this year?
That released to critical.
No, but that still was this year.
Yeah.
Gears of War 5.
Yeah, that's right. Gears 5 came out.
I'm still gonna call it Gears of War.
Early in the year, there was a bunch of stuff too. Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. this year.
I feel weird that I like hardly know any of these.
I mean, Death Stranding came out like 2 weeks. Jedi Fallen Order came out
Yeah.
today, and there's one other one that's coming out this year too.
Yeah, there's like one more release.
Oh, and Pokemon, obviously.
Yeah. I
I
think there's one more big boy release in this
I'll
year.
look up big boy releases. and see what else it is.
Yeah, Pokemon has been in some kind of crazy. Resident Evil 2 came out.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, Pokemon has been in some crazy controversy right now. Like I said, the Pokemon Reddit was on fire on Tuesday. Like it just was not.
Shenmue 3 comes out in like 2 days. Or I guess
4 days.
4 days.
Yeah, 4 days
I
from
don't
recording
know.
this.
And Need for Speed Heat.
Yeah.
Don't
So
forget Just Dance 2020.
Oh, there
let's
it is.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are my premiere thoughts on Pokemon. I will have a much more in-depth review probably next week. Actually, I'll probably just like spend the weekend playing this and like watching Disney Plus stuff. So
Also, on a quick side note before we move on to Matt, I just wanted to mention, speaking of Disney Plus, Mandalorian, as well as non-Disney Plus shows, Rick and Morty Season 4 and Watchmen on HBO. I am watching, and I have things to say, but I'm waiting until the season wraps up before I start talking about them.
Okay.
Because specifically Watchmen and Mandalorian, I want to see where the shows go
Yeah.
before I start talking about
Yeah,
them.
I don't feel comfortable saying like. The only one of those I've seen is The Mandalorian,
Yeah.
and
I've heard a lot of things about Watchmen.
Watchmen,
Yeah.
I've got plenty to say,
Yeah.
but I want to wait until it wraps. I want to see
Sure.
the show's endgame
Sure.
before I
Yeah.
wrap up.
yeah, I feel the same way about The Mandalorian. Like, I think the first episode, I have a lot of things to say about it, but I want to make sure my opinion doesn't get invalidated 3 weeks in.
Sure.
Yeah. Same thing with me with Rick and Morty. I'm like, I loved the premiere, but I want to see where the season goes. Even though I'm sure it'll be good.
Yeah. So
Okay.
with that, Matt, did
Matt,
you
hold
wanted
on.
to talk about?
Hold on,
Sure.
Matt. We could talk about Doctor Sleep,
Yeah.
or I mean, I would also be interested in talking about Lighthouse. So I'm going to leave it up to you. Whichever
I'm-
one you think is
I-
more interesting to talk about.
I feel like The Lighthouse would be a lot more interesting to talk
Okay.
about.
Because I have seen the Lighthouse,
Yeah,
and I would be able to talk. I haven't seen because I know I was.
I mean, Doctor Sleep. I don't think I can talk much.
Yeah,
about
I
without
was-
getting into spoilers.
yeah,
Okay.
If I can talk like 2 minutes about Doctor
Oh,
Sleep.
yeah,
go ahead.
I was just-
Yeah,
I-
because
I'd
this
much
is-
rather do that.
I
This
didn't
is
want to
your
because I was.
soapbox.
I
You're
was
allowed
no,
to do whatever
I
you
want
want.
to make sure that
Yeah,
the audience
no,
knows I'm not like I'm not like forcing Matt.
No,
to-
no, yeah.
So I was
yeah.
just like because I was kind of weirdly pushing for Doctor Sleep. I haven't seen it, but
Yeah.
I thought if you had some stuff to say, I
Yeah.
mean I have.
I've got some just like really quick thoughts. Doctor Sleep.
It's a bad movie.
It kind of sucks. Yeah. And from what I've seen, everybody, apparently I've been looking at the wrong stuff, but I've only seen really positive stuff about it. Even Stephen King is like tweeting out. He's like, "Yeah, go see Doctor Sleep. It's great."
That might be marketing.
Yeah, that's
I-
probably.
I mean, but, like-
somebody handed him a
But
check
I mean,
and was like,
well,
"Do
but,
this."
come on,
But for the guy, sorry,
You're good, you're
the
good.
guy that he very vocally shit all over The Shining,
Yeah,
and for
yeah.
him to be like, "Yeah, go
Interesting.
see Doctor Sleep." Like, I don't
Yeah.
feel like.
I was just
I
about
don't
to say.
know.
It doesn't
I-
necessarily
I-
feel genuine.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Matt because
yeah.
I agree with Matt because I feel like if he's done it in the past, why wouldn't he do it now?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be why wouldn't he be?
That's
like-
true. You got a point. there.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. The movie, obviously, like you can't make a sequel to The Shining without like everyone being like, "What the hell are you doing?" I don't know. Like the movie, it was fine for like it's a 2.5 hour movie, and the first hour 50 minutes, it's fine. It's nothing amazing, but like the last 30-40 minutes like absolutely just destroys the movie, and I don't want to get into like even why, because I know you haven't seen the trailers, and there's like you see it in the trailers, but like avoid the trailers if
Right.
you want to go see this movie
Yeah.
and you haven't seen them, because I would want you to have that reveal in the movie, but I feel like it's pretty obvious. Like you can probably guess what they do. The movie just completely throws away its own movie to do something else, and it makes no sense, especially for a movie called Doctor Sleep. What they do, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I'm just trying to like get through
No,
this
you're
really
good,
quick.
you're good, yeah.
The villain, like everyone's like, oh, she's great. Acting wise, yeah, she's pretty good, but like she's not intimidating. I think it's done very poorly, and she's like wears this stupid hat that I think the movie is just like, oh, she's a bad guy because of the hat. Like the hat's stupid. Like I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
The
That sucks
child.
because I really like Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah, she does fine. The child actor, I don't know her name, but she did really good along with Ewan McGregor. They both did really really good.
So the performances were good.
The
story
performances
was
are
bad.
good. The story is good until they decide to completely throw the story away.
Okay.
I'm guessing that they say like, oh, we're gonna throw away this story so we can tie into The Shining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do a little more than that. God, I want to say, but like
You're good.
it's,
I mean,
it's just
the idea, the idea of making a sequel to arguably one of the greatest horror films ever.
Mhm.
Just like kind of, I mean, it's like making, it's like if
It's
a
like
filmmaker.
it's like telling Christopher Nolan to make a sequel to Inception.
it's
I mean,
like telling
well,
someone
like,
to make a
which
sequel to
Tenet
The
very
Shining.
well might.
Right, yeah,
Let's be
it's
real.
I was just thinking of like if you were to make I know that there's already sequels to 2001: A Space Odyssey
Yeah.
because I think there's multiple books or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's almost along those same lines where it's
Yeah.
just like the film itself is already. I mean, it's a masterpiece. You
Yeah.
don't really need to touch it or add anything onto it. But I mean, it's very. I feel like.
But here's the thing: like Doctor Sleep, it does like add to the story, and like there's some stuff that like is pretty cool and like
Yeah.
pretty good. But then like just that ending, man, like it throws it away for legitimate no reason, and it like
it
it just infuriates.
Is this something that's supposed to cater to like fans of The Shining or?
Yes.
Okay. All
So
right.
do you think like a fan re-edit of this movie could be?
No, just because what they do, like
There's no way around
There's
it?
no way around
Okay.
it. Yeah. I really want to like say, but like I spoilers. I don't want to like ruin it.
Okay.
I don't think anyone's rushing out to see this though.
Yeah.
You know.
No.
So yeah.
I'm just surprised that anyone thinks like, yeah, I'm gonna try and follow up Stanley Kubrick, as if anybody could reasonably
Like
do that.
that's what I'm
Well,
trying
like
to say.
that's the thing though. Like Doctor Sleep is its own thing. It's its own book. So like, I get like why they would make a Doctor Sleep movie, but just like the way they handled it, it
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
I
it
think
was awful.
because it's not The Shining 2. It's
No,
its own
it's
book.
not.
Yeah.
It's not absolutely like.
Does it-
goddamn!
Does Doctor Sleep even have the kid from The Shining
Yeah.
in it?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like that is a thing that
Mhm.
okay. It's not
Isn't
just
that-
like
isn't
they.
that, that's,
it's not that
It's
they
Danny.
just
It's
shoehorned in
yeah.
Ewan McGregor as the kid from The
Yeah.
Shining.
that's who Ian McGregor played.
Yeah,
Who's he?
yeah,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
So I mean, so it's essentially just same character, but in a new separate story.
Yeah.
So-
Okay.
Well, in the book, yeah.
In the book,
So
okay.
yeah.
Right.
I guess that's without getting into spoilers. That's all I gotta really say about that. If you want to get into the lighthouse, we can.
Yeah,
We
could
got
talk
another
about-
Yeah.
20 minutes. We can
Okay.
just scrap the Disney thing because we already kind of talked
Yeah.
about Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's fine.
The Lighthouse. I kind of already talked about it earlier, but it's also another film that I've seen recently
Yeah.
that I really, really like.
Mhm.
Specifically the performances, but also
Yeah.
the story. The story.
I think that Robert Pattinson is getting completely outshined by Willem Dafoe,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think that it Robert Pattinson knows even going to pay attention to him just by how good Willem Dafoe is, but like Robert Pattinson is like just as good as Willem.
Yeah, and
it's-
it's sad to say that
Yeah.
he's being outshined
Yeah.
by Willem Dafoe, like his counterpart. But like it's hard not to
Yeah.
acknowledge Willem Dafoe. But also, I
absolutely,
mean, like
yeah.
he
Willem Dafoe is literally like a national treasure.
he
Like-
is. I think he's getting to Nick Cage level.
Yeah.
I mean, like the thing. Adam
Wait,
Sandler.
wait a
Well,
second. that has kind of a connotation too.
You have to think about that. That's we want our listeners to think here.
I was gonna say there's some baggage with that statement. Yeah.
Seriously.
I was gonna say because well, I mean, it's really hard to kind of like one up his performance and
It's hard to
and
like
Spider-Man.
star alongside anybody
Yeah.
against Willem
Yeah,
Dafoe.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, but like the thing is I mean, Robert Pattinson. I don't want to have like the listeners get the false impression. He does a really good job.
Mhm.
But I think acting alongside Willem Dafoe,
They're just so good, both of them.
both
yeah,
of them, like
yeah.
on screen, it's like the film. One of the criticisms I've heard is the film is. I mean, it's viewed as being boring, because it's two people in a lighthouse who are just talking essentially,
yeah.
and they're slowly losing their mind. But they're the dynamic on screen, and both of them kind of
So
clashing.
it's Persona.
Essentially, I mean,
I like how like half the time you bring up a movie, I just relate it back to Persona.
I mean, honestly,
That's me with Metal
I'm
Gear.
not gonna lie. There are some ways like I would maybe relate this to. I'm not okay. Never mind. But I'm not gonna get too.
Is it a Persona sequel?
No, it's a
It's-
prequel. It's
It's a prequel.
I don't know. I just think the fact that people are going to see a black and white movie about people talking that's not even like a full movie screen. Like I feel like that
In
actually people,
2019.
yeah, people are actually going out and seeing it and like having this like impression and like having the movie stick with them. Like that's really cool to me.
This is
Yeah.
definitely a film where it's a film that you walk out of the movie theater and I consistently thought about
Yeah,
it like the rest of the
absolutely.
week and like I'm still thinking about it. It's
There's
you know,
shots that just stick in the back of your mind.
it's like it's etched into the back of my mind and it's hard to forget about this movie.
Yeah.
I
It's
love
hard to
the
forget about.
aesthetic that it has. I
The-
really
the
want to
aesthe-
see that.
The aesthetic is unique. I mean, like I've never really seen this kind of like this. Well, like a story set in like like what are their what's their occupation specifically? Is it
White
wiki?
House Keepers.
Yeah, White House Keepers.
I mean, so it's like late 1800s.
Yeah, but like it's
okay.
very unique, and that's something that's very prevalent. I mean, it's very it's like have you seen The Witch?
I would
Robert
like
Eggers-
to, but I'm slightly concerned that movie's gonna scare the crap out of me.
It's really good, and I mean, I would say what I mean. Like the thing is, it's like it's not terrifying. There are some sequences that are scary.
Is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
But
as bad as like Hereditary?
I would say no.
No, no,
I
no, no.
I would say the movies are pretty similar.
And I just love how Robert.
Yeah, go.
Matt, I don't mean to take your.
No,
like,
you're fine.
But I was gonna say like quickly like Robert Eggers. I mean, he's only come out with 2 films so far, but he grounds his movie. He sets his movies in this time period where like the like where these characters actually believe these like kind of like fables or
Yeah.
legends or myths. So for instance, in The Witch, it's like Puritan kind of English
Like Salem era.
Salem era.
Yeah.
And like obviously, as you know, like during that time period, I mean, witches were believed to be an actual thing, and they would like execute people who were thought to be witches, which is something that enhances that and makes it more realistic and therefore more scary or terrifying because it's
Yeah.
realistic. Same thing with. Like The Lighthouse,
Yeah.
the character like Willem Dafoe's character and Robert well not really Robert Pattinson's character, but Willem Dafoe's character specifically believes in like these kind of like like these practices or like what's the right word for it? But like for instance, there's a thing where like the seagull thing.
The like almost like urban legends in a way.
Urban
Yeah.
legends, like where he actually believes in these things.
Oh my god,
And-
that scene with the seagull.
And this,
like-
that's
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
I mean that's iconic. That's I don't want to get into it, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I'm
There's
definitely
a-
interested
how-
in seeing this film.
Yeah. How scary is this movie?
there's literally only probably one like scene where like it would be quote unquote scary because
Okay.
like I don't know what your definition of scary is, but
Yeah.
this entire film.
Me being terrified
Okay.
walking out of the theater.
Okay, well, like how easily terrified you are because I know you get scared pretty easily.
Yes, I get scared very easily.
Um,
The metric is how
Could you?
how much will I feel like there's something walking
so
behind
so
me?
so
okay.
no I think
Like
I-
if,
well,
there- if it feels
there-
like there's
there-
something walking
Okay,
behind me,
Could you handle
constantly,
Monster House?
yeah. Could you handle Scooby Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed?
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, you probably couldn't handle this. No, I'm just joking. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. There's okay, Matt. You could go ahead and.
No, I just think like I don't think the movie's scary, but like it definitely makes you feel super uneasy, especially with the foghorn. Just like oh my god, like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
There are, like we just said, there are images that get etched into your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, personally speaking, Ezra, I don't know if you'd be a fan of this film.
I-
if I'm being, knowing your taste of films.
Yeah.
But like, I don't mean that as a diss. But like, I'm like, I mean, it's because it's not.
No, this is just the
It's
Diss
not.
Ezra show.
No, it's not. No, it's not. But I think that like genuinely, because based on like based on like my perception of the film, I mean like I think
Yeah.
that it's something that should be like you should see. I mean it's I mean technically the film was extremely well shot. I mean a lot of the interior.
I think it's really cool that anybody's making a 16mm film in
Yeah,
2019.
I actually I don't think it's. Well, originally I thought it was 16mm, but I think it's 35mm.
Still.
But it's equally
Okay.
as impressive.
Yeah.
But
The fact that they're releasing a movie that's in 4:3 is already a
it's
massive.
very
Yeah.
very risky. I mean like.
But like it plays so well into that, especially with the use of darkness, where like it blends into like this just
Interesting.
like tiny like
Right.
little thing on
Right.
screen.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. going off of that, I would say because like most of the shots inside are like really, I mean they're pretty much lit by candlelights.
Yeah.
Like this like just one candlelight in the image, and the candlelight's blown out because they're exposing for the actors' faces. But
Yeah.
like it's very like because they're not. I could tell that that in a lot of instances that like the candlelight was probably literally like they didn't add a crazy amount of lights.
Yeah.
I mean they probably did because it is film. But
Because it is filmed.
Yeah.
They
Well-
lit the set because it's filmed.
well, because like I mean, like if you think back
Yeah.
to like you know, like
I
sets
mean,
back-
Sawyer could even just talk about our film 1 project.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
say
yeah.
like
Because
we're gonna
it's-
get the real film nerd territory
Right,
here
like,
pretty
you know,
soon.
I mean, like back like in the 50s and 40s, like if you look back at like set pictures, they would need immense amount of like lights, and like the
Yeah.
sets would be extremely hot, and like it would just it was just because like you see like the big lights they did, and
Yeah.
it was just for like this just to create this like just
Actors-
exposed image, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't like it would,
Actors
it was,
did not have a good time.
they would literally have the sun and the room,
Yeah.
and so like I mean I would imagine they had something like this, but like
Yeah.
it was extremely well shot.
Yeah.
Like a lot of each image you could have taken a screenshot of, and it could have easily been like some kind of like picture that's famous, or like some kind
Yeah.
of portraiture, like it's or even a painting really.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I like I know I've already said this, but that I love that like maritime like turn of the century aesthetic. Like I know it's like a weirdly specific thing, but like
but that's what makes it unique.
yeah, it's
it
like
is
a-
cool.
But what would you say about the acting for me, specifically Willem Dafoe? I would say because I think he deserves a nomination for sure.
I think he deserves. I don't. Besides, like Joaquin Phoenix, I don't think any performance really has blown me away. I mean,
Yeah.
even like Joaquin Phoenix, like he did great, but
Right,
like I don't
right.
think he was on par with
Right.
what Willem Dafoe did.
I think because last year he got nominated for At Eternity's
Yeah.
Gate, and he
Then he got nominated, I think, the year before for Florida Project.
for Florida Project
Yeah.
as well. So he's making
almost like
he's
the new
trying to
Leo, yeah.
he's like every once in a while I feel like taking a look at like Oscar history, like I feel like there's a period of time where one actor like consistently tries to like make their way into like the
And then they
Well,
finally,
and they finally
get that.
and I think this is Willem
Yeah.
Dafoe's this is his
I mean, if we're talking, like he was nominated even back in what 83 for Platoon, 83.
yeah.
84?
Yeah.
I'm not sure
I
what
would
year
say
that
there
was,
was some he probably look he's been
nominated.
He's
Yeah.
been nominated a lot, and I think he's one of the actors in the industry right now who haven't received the recognition.
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is like,
I think
I'll,
Spider-Man.
I'll get you, Spider-Man.
I think
we have
with what's been recently going on with the Oscars, where they're kind of giving Oscars to actors who they think they deserve it for not necessarily the role that they deserve it. I think this is absolutely a role that deserves an Oscar nomination,
specifically
like
a
win.
sequence at the end.
Yeah,
where there's the
Oh my
monologue.
god! Yeah.
I mean, like that. God,
just
like
even
that's
him talking about his food.
that's
like,
yeah, his food or anything. Like I'm telling you, like the dynamic they had, both of them. I mean, like how they played off each other. Made the film interesting, and a film that would if I were to tell you what the film is about, you'd be like, I mean, like somebody would be like, that's kind of boring. It seems like it's boring, but you watch these characters kind of like slowly kind of devolve, and like they kind of like lose their mind. And I mean, I think it's. So I was talking to somebody, and it's based on actual true stories of like lighthouse kind of workers who actually kind of like their stories and how like
I think it was like they took like looked at like notes or like stories that like old lighthouse keepers like would write, and they just like kind of stumbled across
right,
them.
right, and which makes it all the more authentic.
Yeah.
So I've only heard about
Which
two
one?
scenes from this movie, one of which is not appropriate for talking about on the show. But
okay, so there's multiple.
There's like a
it's a Robert Pattinson scene.
Oh, okay,
that
well, then never mind.
specifically I've heard about.
There's a couple of Robert Pattinson scenes.
Oh,
but-
it's
okay. I think I know what
it's
you're
not
talking
one I want to bring up on the
we
show.
know what you're talking about. It just happens more than one time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That, and then I've heard the whole "Why'd you spill your beans?"
Yeah, that's my comic now. But like, this is a film that'll be looked back at as a classic. I mean, like
Nice.
it's gonna be I mean, like not just because
It will
not-
be studied in film classes.
in cinema classes. I mean, I want to sound.
Oh my! All right, get out.
Wait a sec. Well, no, I think not because it's 4:3, not because it's black and white. I think that because this film, very much like Persona, is I'm gonna sound snobby.
That's a statement.
I'm gonna sound snobby, but it's open for interpretation.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be a film like that, like you're gonna watch it in class,
Okay.
and the film instructor's gonna be like, all right, what do we think? And there's gonna be
It's just
multiple
gonna spark discussion.
multiple interpretations, and that's how it is. I mean,
Which is cool.
and which is gonna make it not only, not memorable, like it's not just because it's gonna be studied in classes. It's gonna be remembered because of that fact.
Of the question.
Of the
at
questioning
end.
and of the,
Yeah.
the multiple interpretations.
I think going off of the interpretations, I don't know what I should say just based off of spoilers,
Yeah.
but I think when people, I've talked to a lot of people where they're like asking a specific question, which I don't know if I should just ask just spoiler wise, but it's the I feel like the question I don't know what
No,
I
you're
can
good,
say.
you're good.
Just like what is it?
Right,
I feel like
right,
that's the wrong question. It's almost like what's in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction.
That's
like
true.
it's just
That's
like the
true.
wrong question.
No.
I don't think it's
Like-
what you should be thinking about.
Right,
I think
right.
it's just the interpretation of what's like actually going on is more prevalent than like
Yeah.
what's the actual thing.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
like
agree.
that's something that I think is interesting about movies like this, like Persona, is like
Every time I mention Persona, I'm just like, I sound so snobby right now. But it's true. I mean, like, it's a film
Persona has a very large impact on movies.
Right,
like this.
right. I mean,
like,
like-
it wrote the book on like two characters in a house doing a thing.
Yeah.
Like it wrote the book on that.
Is it bad that this entire time I thought you were talking about like Shin Megami Tensei?
Oh no. No, there's I think I've talked about this. There's a Russian movie called Persona
Okay.
from like the 50s or something like that.
I don't know if it's Swedish. I think. Or are you referring to Ingmar Bergman's film, Persona?
No,
Or-
I'm. Let me
Is
look
it-
it
is
up
it-
on IMDb real quick.
Yeah,
But-
this whole time I thought you were referring to the video game Persona. And
No.
I was like, that's
No.
a weird comparison, but all right.
Because
Like,
it's just is it a Swedish film or is it a?
makes me feel stupid now.
It's yeah. So the language they speak in the film is Swedish, which leads me to believe.
Oh, I thought it was Russian.
No, it's
Yeah, it
Yeah, it is. It's yeah.
But, like,
it's,
all
it's,
of-
the, it's
We love you,
66.
Sweden.
It's a Swedish film about two characters who like at the start of the movie. It's just about like one of these characters goes to live with this other character because they're like not speaking, and then it devolves into like what the heck is going on. I have no idea who is even who, and like
you see in that
Yeah.
vein, I mean, like you could. I could draw comparisons with like I don't want to sound snobby, guys. It's fair, but it's.
I don't think Persona is a very snobby film to bring up.
It's yeah. I mean, like I don't think so. But like, there's drawing comparisons from like Persona to The Lighthouse. There's a lot of comparisons to draw from.
Yeah.
But and I don't want to go into too much into details. But
we
because
also need to start wrapping because it's
Yeah, yeah.
almost 2 hours.
Yeah, that's
It,
true.
it this movie this movie sounds a lot like what you would sort of get out of making Persona in 2019.
Yeah.
And it's going to be as memorable as Persona is for like
Yeah.
it's going to be talked about in film classes. It's going to be talked about. It's going to be there's going to be multiple kind of like viewings of it, and like it's going to be memorable. So
If I liked Persona, would I like this movie? Because I kind of like
yes.
Persona.
Yes, you would.
Okay.
I think you would like this movie also.
I would. I don't know if I would say I enjoyed myself during Persona, but I
Because
think
the-
I appreciate.
I mean, because
Persona.
if you might recall, much like in Persona, there are some uncomfortable moments.
Yeah.
Um,
The whole.
I mean, like
That's a very light way to put it.
yeah.
This movie like is trying to give you a mental breakdown.
Well, yeah, the same with The Lighthouse. Like it
Yeah.
is a very intense movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that near the end,
Yeah,
you start the things start to quite literally get out of hand. And I literally like there was some just to
I
wrap
don't
it
know
up.
what that means.
Oh, I thought you were
He
trying
knows.
to. I thought you were referring to. Sorry. But
Well, I mean, never mind. Never mind.
go watch this film just for the performances alone, but also go watch it just because it's a well-crafted film.
Yeah.
It's if you want
Okay.
to want to see a good piece of cinema,
Sure.
you should.
I hate you.
Go to the Flickers.
Yeah, if you guys want to wrap this up and talk about Disney Plus for like a hot second.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
I did say a couple things I wanted to say on Disney Plus. So like,
Mandalorian episode 1 is good.
Yes. Without going into like the obvious stuff. One, I think I might have talked about this like on like the beginning of the semester because I watched this movie over the summer. I might have already talked about it, but The Rocketeer. It's an old Disney movie from 1991, directed by Joe Johnston, or it's either Johnston or Johnson. He's the guy who also directed the first Captain America movie, like the first Chris Evans.
Oh
one.
yeah. I think you talked about this. Yeah.
It is on Disney Plus. Worth taking a look. It's a superhero movie, kind of. It's also a period piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much an adventure film.
Does it take place in the 50s or
30s.
Okay.
It's about a guy who comes into possession of a experimental rocket pack created by Howard Hawks.
I know this movie.
Yeah, and it's Timothy Dalton plays Hollywood actor who's also secretly working for the Nazis. And spoilers, but whatever.
Oh my god.
It's in the the first 10 minutes. So okay.
Timothy Dalton as a spy Nazi.
It's also literally in the trailer.
It came out in 1991. Why do you think that it wasn't like it's not as memorable as like something like Little Mermaid, Aladdin. Wait, what is it? Is it? Wait, sorry, never mind. But I thought I said the wrong title.
No, you're good.
But the Little Mermaid, Aladdin. Why isn't it as memorable?
I think
it came out along the same time.
It's not an animated.
Well, one, it's not animated, so that could be part of it. I think also because
it's not.
No, it's live action.
Okay. Oh well, then that kind of changes things.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why, well, one, Disney live action movies obviously weren't doing huge numbers at the time. That, and I think superhero movies in general were not really at their peak. The 90s was very much a dead time for superhero movies. You really only had, well, that was 80s.
Oh, wow.
It was 86, I think.
Yeah.
But, the only 90s superhero movies you can really have were, straight to DVD ones that were just made to keep the rights.
Oh, I remember this movie.
The only other thing I can think of is, Blade, and then, the original Blade was really it. So, I think it's worth taking a look at for this film. It's on Disney Plus, so if you've got it for The Mandalorian, you might as well check it out.
The Batman movies took place in the 90s.
You're right. Batman Returns came out in the 90s. That's the only good Batman movie that came out in the 90s.
But,
but I think if you guys get a chance, it's a highly underrated film. It's definitely a throwback to the adventure serials of the 40s and 50s.
Okay.
The whole, we gotta beat the Nazis kind of thing. And just you're rushing in, good old America type thing.
Oh, sure.
But
I'm kind of okay with that.
It's very much meant to be a classic, 30s, 40s feel to it.
In terms of were there a lot of visual effects or
there is obviously with him being a rocket pack powered superhero, there are some visual effects shots. Most of them are practical. It holds up for the most part. There's really only 2 or 3 shots that don't. It's kind of like if you mixed the first Captain America with Indiana Jones. It's kind of like how I would say this movie.
That's pretty cool. That sounds like
which seems like a fairly intuitive mix.
It's slightly. Some people could construe it as slightly cheesy, but it's meant how I assume we've all seen the first Captain America.
Yeah.
You know how it had that whole classic World War II era serial tone to it.
Yeah.
It's very similar to that, which makes sense because it's the same
director.
Yeah. So it's. If you like the first Captain America, I think you'll like this movie. It's a superhero movie, and it's not Marvel or DC, but it is based on a comic.
And it is owned by Disney.
So I guess it is Marvel. No, never mind.
Check that one out. And I know I don't know if there's anything else you guys wanted to mention, but on Disney Plus as well, the Tron Uprising.
Is it on there?
Animated series is on there, and it's actually really good.
Okay, dude, I think I don't know if Matt knows,
that series
but Tron Legacy.
I know Sawyer loves it.
Oh, I love Tron, man.
I saw that Applied Aesthetics project.
This is the Lab Rats consensus.
Okay.
Tron Legacy is great.
Okay.
I think that it's it's a film that
it's not perfect.
It's not perfect. It's not perfect. I mean,
I have no place to talk because I've not seen the original or Tron Legacy.
Okay.
Oh,
Disney, you have Disney Plus now?
I do not.
Oh,
no.
okay.
Watch
Get
Tron
Disney
Legacy.
Plus. They're both on there.
Okay.
I just think
Does Disney Plus
the
have
original Tron is on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Is there a amount of viewers that can be on at a time? Is it like Netflix where only 2-3 people?
What are you trying to say, Matt? You're
I'm
trying to
trying
borrow
to
someone else?
I'm trying to get my parents to be like, hey, let's get this for the family.
I haven't
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
I haven't tested it. I think it's likely at least 2 because I don't have kids and parents. But they do have on there. I think the first Tron, if we're talking about Tron right now, has not aged very well.
Okay.
Obviously the effects have aged very poorly.
Obviously.
The only thing I know about Tron Legacy is Jeff Bridges.
Legacy holds up really well.
Yeah, Legacy is a very pretty
I would
movie.
say, Legacy. Right now, Legacy holds up. So the visual effects hold up. The only thing that I would say, it looks a little
off
Oh,
is
yeah.
because I mean the de-aging, but like that's because it was in its early stages.
The
And
de-aged version of
pioneered
Jeff Bridges
de-aging.
really
but
does not look great.
But like I mean, you have to
Yeah.
understand because like oh man, this is turning into a Tron
Tron
conversation.
Legacy
But-
podcast.
So like I mean, the early Tron, the first Tron film was obviously I mean like it doesn't hold up now, but
Yeah.
at the time it was groundbreaking.
It pioneered like CG
Yeah,
in movies.
same thing with Tron Legacy. I think when I first watched it, it blew my mind. I mean, the de-aging like it was new at the time, and it's being used now.
Yeah.
Like
If you're gonna watch the original Tron, you got to keep in mind the era in which it was
Do
made.
you have to watch the original to watch Legacy?
no,
No.
no,
In fact, I would almost recommend you watch Legacy
Yes,
first.
so I saw
Yeah.
Legacy first. I saw the original Tron, and I didn't like the original Tron as much,
Okay.
just because like the Tron like this is back like when I like 8th grader me, but like 9th grader me, but like it was a little slower and like the visual effects.
It
weren't
is
as-
much
I would.
slower.
The
And-
one thing I would say is watching the original Tron gives you an appreciation
Yeah.
for
Tron.
like why some of this stuff is happening.
Mhm.
But
Also, it did win like an Oscar, I think, for that year.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So
I do
that makes it
recommend
official.
checking it out, especially as like
Squad won an Oscar.
like as a film fan. I think you would get an appreciation for
Okay,
seeing how
yeah.
far things have come since then.
Sure.
And I
Especially since
just
it
think-
like started most of the CGI.
Yeah, I think I just
Yeah,
it's
and most
exciting.
most
It's
people
good.
forget about the animated series, but it's actually really good. I can't. It was on Disney XD, which is probably part of the problem
Okay.
because Disney XD.
Disney
Disney XD
it's
had
where
mostly.
where series go to
Well,
die.
essentially because Disney. Oh, Rebels was on there.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Counter argument. Okay,
Disney
that's
XD. Long story short, most of the shows on there are meant for kids, and this
Yeah.
show is much more mature than things
Yeah.
that are typically on there.
I wanted because Uprising was one that I missed because it looked awesome and I remember it came out like after.
Yeah.
Legacy.
All 19 episodes are on there.
Oh, it's just 19.
Yeah. Oh, unfortunately, they haven't done a cliffhanger.
Oh.
But I mean, it doesn't really matter because everything
It
wraps
takes
up
place
in Legacy.
between-
It's between.
yeah.
It's before Legacy, so it wraps up itself anyway.
Oh, sweet.
But
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's-
not all the
Yeah.
characters, but in terms
Yeah.
of the overall story.
Yeah, it was a nice little Tron discussion.
So yeah,
Nice.
Tron, The Rocketeer, and
That's So Raven. Go watch. I mean, That's So Raven. I mean, like it's just like all
Is
the
that on there?
yeah,
Oh.
like the amount of like just like stuff I've heard people say, just like they're revisiting their childhoods and like
Oh, and
there's this like sorry there was
you're
this
good.
there was this so have you seen there was like what's Adam Sandler's movie where he's like in
Bedtime Stories.
about like Billy Madison.
It's still Disney.
No, I know it's not Disney, but like so like where he's like he goes back to kindergarten or something.
Oh,
There's like this one screenshot. The only reason why I mentioned this is one screenshot.
Oh,
where
is
he's-
that him with the class?
yeah, the class
Yeah.
is like watching Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Like I was
Yeah.
like, that's a pretty good way to like it's
I think
revisiting my
Yeah,
childhood.
I think it's Disney
Yeah.
Plus has got some good stuff. I like how they put the disclaimers on there. I
Yeah.
think that's smart for them. to
Yeah,
do that.
that's super duper smart.
That's important. Yeah.
I think that because most of those films are still great, but aside from those sequences that don't as
Yeah.
much, like in Peter Pan specifically.
Would-
That
Would you recommend getting it? Because like here's the way I see it. I see like I've got so many movies that I haven't seen already that I want to get to see, and I feel like just like watching a bunch of shows and movies that I saw as a kid just really isn't necessarily worth my
The
time.
one of the so that is one calculation. The other calculation is like not only is there a bunch of stuff that they're developing specifically for
Yeah.
Disney Plus.
Because like I'm interested in The
might-
Mandalorian. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, like so like there's that, but there's also like every future release that Disney like major Disney release that they
Uh-huh.
do is probably going to end up on Disney
Yeah.
Plus as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
So you get your value from like
Sure.
that and the vault and the exclusive stuff. Like
So-
yeah, I think
I would
like
say
as a package deal, I think it's worth
if
it.
you're on the fence now about
Well, I
terms
mean,
of
I
content,
really want Hulu anyway, so I might just
yeah,
do
the
that.
Hulu.
Yeah,
if you want both, the
Yeah.
Hulu deal would be
and
great.
it's very
yeah.
tempting. Like I would rather have honestly at this point. I mean, like I don't have a Netflix account that I pay for on my own, but like I would be like the amount of media that you have access to, like
Yeah.
that I would want to like go back and like I want to watch like I want to go back and watch a lot of Pixar's films and so, like a lot of like TV shows and stuff. But like I don't have the time right now, obviously. But like it'll
Yeah.
be something that I think will be valuable later on.
Well,
like,
and the good thing is, even people are forgetting that it's the start of this library.
Yeah.
Disney
Yeah.
has, even though they have a lot of stuff they put on here, there's still Disney stuff that isn't on there yet.
yeah.
They can still add stuff on, and like we already talked about how there's a couple Marvel and Star Wars things that aren't on there yet.
Yeah.
And they have the entire Fox library
Right.
that isn't all on there yet either. But I think, to answer your question, if you're on the fence now in terms of like if you think there's enough on there that you haven't seen yet, obviously there's a lot of stuff they're developing. I would, if you're on the fence, maybe wait until The Mandalorian wraps up, so that way you
Okay.
can just like watch all 8 episodes
Yeah.
at once. That
Oh, there's only 8 episodes.
it's either 8 to 10, something like that.
Yeah.
But like you could do that, and then by that time it wraps up, you're only like maybe a month away from Clone Wars starting, and then
Sure.
all these
Yeah.
Marvel shows. So like there's gonna
Yeah.
be more coming out. Where it's the platform obviously has only been out for like a little under a week, so like there's
Yeah.
a lot more that's coming to it, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But there are a couple features that they still need to work the kinks out on,
Okay. Yeah.
namely adding things to a watch list. Even when you add them and it has the check mark on it, when you go to click it under your watch list, it's there, but it doesn't have the check mark there anymore,
Yeah.
and it kind of bothers me a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
That, and it doesn't mark when you've watched an episode. So like I watched all the way through the first Mandalorian episode, but you know how typically on like HBO or Netflix it has a bar
Right.
that says
Yeah.
you've watched this whole episode.
Right.
Disney Plus doesn't do that.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. They have
So
to-
that's a problem, but it's a good start, and it's got a lot of good content, especially if you have kids.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of
Right.
material there that
Yeah.
you'll be able to
Yeah,
entertain.
I think it's like, yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up perfectly. Like, if you just, like, I don't know if necessarily everybody should jump onto it, because everybody's in, like, a different circumstance with this stuff, but in the future, as
It's gonna
long
be
as
great.
they, like, keep the content coming, I wouldn't have an issue recommending it to everybody.
And especially if you're a Marvel or a Star Wars fan, there's going to be enough content there to keep you entertained.
Yeah.
That, and I cannot wait to rewatch Kim Possible.
Oh.
Personally,
That's great.
I'm looking forward to finally giving Rebels my time.
Yes, Rebels is another one on there. If you're a Star Wars fan, I mean, obviously everybody in this room is probably a Star Wars fan. Rebels is not perfect, and it's certainly not as good as the Clone Wars, but it's worth checking out.
Yeah.
First season is rough, but seasons 2 through 4 are pretty good for the most
Yeah.
part. Especially when you can just watch them all at once and not have to wait week to week. Because I remember,
Yeah.
like, when there was a filler episode, I'd be like, really? I waited a week for this? Like,
For this.
But now, like, if you're binging it, you're like, oh, okay, that one wasn't great, but you get 3 good ones right after.
Which is
So,
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. Thanks so much for
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
on.
Matt, hopefully you had a fun time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for
Um,
having me.
Of course,
thank you,
yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully
absolutely.
you learned some stuff and found some stuff you want to watch, and we definitely learned some stuff too. I'm
Yes.
definitely going to want to see Parasite now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Parasite sounds really cool.
And I will not see Doctor Sleep in theaters.
Yeah. I don't see it at all.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, burn.
It's okay. So am I
So,
rattling off?
yes,
the old,
you are.
Okay, so let's see if I get it right this time. You can find us on Twitter at CastKate at CastCate on Twitter because of our old handle that we could not get rid of. But you can
Caleb
find us.
mans that now.
Yeah, Caleb mans that now, but you can find us just by searching the Lab Rats Entertainment Podcast. I'm sure it'll pop up. You know our logo. At least you hopefully do by now. You can find us on Instagram at the Lab Rats Podcast. We don't typically ever post on there. In fact, I think it's been several weeks. But if you want, on Twitter, if you want to get notifications when an episode goes up, you will get a tweet that goes out every time the episode is online.
Nice.
And you can find that podcast on, let's see if I can get them all, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music / Google Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, and Podbean.
That's it.
Nice.
We're
And
good.
YouTube is in the...
It's
iffy
in flux. I
Yeah.
think last time.
Last week's went up.
Yeah, last week's went up, so right now we're good.
This week likely won't go up. That's a whole other topic that I'll have to discuss with you later. But
Yeah.
this week's
Uh,
likely won't be up on YouTube, but it'll be up on literally everything else. Also,
Nice.
we started doing segments.
Yes.
Thank you, Ezra, for that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm taking charge on doing the segments.
Make sure the Parasites gets its own segment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every week.
It might be long enough to get its own
Yeah,
segment.
we're breaking them down so that we'll have the
Yeah.
full episode and like little bits that you can choose to watch.
It's sort of the way I did it last week, just to get into my design philosophy on this, was somewhere around 30 to 40 minutes. So like if I thought it was reasonable to bombard everybody's podcast feed with like just like
5
nine
minute
different
discussion.
episodes of the same episode, I would do that. But I think 30 to 50 minutes of like a segment I think makes the most sense. So that'll and just 3 of those. So.
And expect in the future more BioShock reviews, Jedi Fallen Order,
Yes.
and Death Stranding, as well as
More in depth on Pokemon. Caleb's gonna come back with some hype on DC probably.
We need to keep like having people who can talk about like indie obscure
Oh, for
films.
sure.
Yeah,
sure.
dude, I'll come back anytime.
Yeah.
That, and we need, I'm sure Caleb, because Crisis on Infinite Earth
Yes.
is looming very soon.
Yes, that is happening
Yeah.
We will be on break for that, but
Well,
we'll figure
part
out a
of it,
way
I
to
think.
talk about it.
That and speaking of indie films, Ahmad, we also will have a pending review of Mandy to do at
Oh,
some point.
yeah.
I need
Nicolas
to actually.
Cage's
I've
Mandy.
been meaning to
I
grab
need to
that
see it
from
too.
you. Oh, you have
Oh yeah,
seen it,
I say I haven't seen it. If you want
Okay.
to do it together at some
yeah,
point.
yeah. Oh, we could do that.
And,
I'd be interested.
Yeah, if anybody's interested, if you
Yeah,
want to
and
talk
if you
to it.
guys if you guys go see Parasite, you want to do a spoiler talk? I would.
Sounds good.
Because I was
plan.
Yeah,
I was
it's hard. It's so
stepping on
hard
thin
to-
ice.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was, but like, I tried to I expressed my excitement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Sounds good. Well, and with that, I think that
I
wraps
think
it up.
that's it. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.